Aita for telling my mom I did not want her there when I got home from deployment. I, 21M, have been deployed for the past 10 months and I will be getting home in 1 week. My wife and I's plan was for her to be the only one to know what date I was coming back, so that when I get leave we can go back and surprise all of our family and friends. My wife, 21F, visited home a couple weeks ago for a family event, and while she was there she spent a day with my mom and 2 younger sister, age. My mother is very pushy and hates surprises. So much so that me surprising her by coming home would make her mad at me. My wife and I knew we would eventually have to tell her because of this, but we're waiting until the last minute because she would have told my sisters if she knew my date. Well, while my wife was there, my mom pushed and pushed, telling her that she wouldn't speak to her, let the girls go places, and she had to know so she could take days off work. My wife gave her a week range of my leave, a couple weeks after I get back, so that she could request off. Well, my mom texted me today telling me that she would be here for the welcome home when our plane lands. I asked if she cleared this with my wife, seeing as she apparently planned to stay with us in our one-bedroom apartment, and she said no. I asked if the girls knew and were coming, and she said no. My mom has done a few things that presses between my wife and I, so I lost it on her. Told her I wouldn't be giving her the date that I fly in, that if I wanted her there I would want my sisters there as well. I stopped there until she started complaining that she was a single mom who raised me on her own, and that I should want to see her first. That's when I told her I didn't want her in my house at all when I first get home. I am a married, grown man now, I don't need my mom, I want to see and spend time with my wife first and foremost. She pressed further saying, I've been here for you since before you were born, she's been here for 4 years. Eventually trash talking my wife, saying she doesn't even have a real job and doesn't contribute. My wife is a nanny while she is in school, and she gets paid well, so she absolutely does contribute more than enough. This is where I may be the asshole. I told my mom that I was tired of her badgering, that I wanted to come home to my wife and be alone in our home with our pets. My wife and I would not want to host her, and we wanted the house to ourselves so that we can have sex wherever and whenever we please because we haven't seen each other in so long. My mom cried. She's sending me long paragraph texts every few hours about how she doesn't know where her caring son went, about how I need to let my wife go because I use her for her body, about how all I care about is my own pleasure, and I have no care for my family at all. Relevant comments. Commenter, good job finally standing up to her. Stop giving her info and stop talking to her. Mom, until you learn to act like an adult and stop trash talking my wife to me, I will not be communicating with you. I am very disappointed in you and how incredibly selfish and immature you are acting. Don't make your wife deal with this jerk. Reply, I haven't given her info. She told me she was coming for my plane to land and she didn't even know when that date was. The only info she got was from my wife, and was quite literally worded as, he will likely have leave within these few weeks, but those weeks could change. Could she find you at the airport? Reply, she won't be able to even if she wanted to. The runway we land on is on base. To a different commenter, she literally cannot get onto base without me or my wife with her, or my permission for a visitor's pass. I won't be giving that permission, so she can try everything she wants. She's not getting in. Commenter, you need to tell your CO and XO about your mom. Do not put it past her to try contacting your unit to get information on where you are, when you are, and how you are coming home. As embarrassing as it is, you've got to protect yourself here and probably go low to no contact with your mom for a while. Reply, she did this in basic training. Called the base I was at so many times that they had to pull me from intake to call her and tell her to leave people alone. After that, I knew she didn't need information. She doesn't even fully know my MOS. Commenter, she's an example of a manipulative parent. Here's a paragraph from an article about manipulative parents, and their signs. Parents using emotional blackmail will often threaten to withdraw their love or approval if the child does not comply with their wishes. This can manifest as guilt-tripping the child, making them feel responsible for the parent's happiness, or expressing extreme disappointment when the child does not meet their expectations. Reply, that paragraph fits what she's been doing to a T. What confuses me is none of my mom's behavior like this started until we got married. Before, when she was my GF, she always wanted her around, joked about trading me and my wife, invited her everywhere my family went. Now it bothers her when we spend time together and she isn't invited when she thinks she should can be. Commenter, she's jealous of your wife. You need to tell her no, you're not her little boy anymore. Reply, I have. It didn't work much, so I just started going LC. Mostly keeping it about my sisters, if we will visit, and of course this because I wasn't willing to just let her think she could step in on me and my wife. Especially without consulting my wife first, considering she is the only one home taking care of our place right now. Commenter, OMG, you need to go either NC or very LC with your mom. JFC, wow, that's just, wow, been there. Mom was the last thing I thought about when I got back from deployment. I mean, God forbid you get stationed overseas. What will she do then? Fucking move in? You need to nip that in the bud now. Reply, I already don't contact her much outside of for my sisters, and neither does my wife. Our plan when my contact ends is to move to a base even farther from home, where we would have to fly for visits. That would take our amount of visits down a lot because we travel with our pets, but they're both large dogs and we don't want to put them under a plane, and plane tickets on top of pet boarding is expensive. If people would want to see us, they would have to come to us. Oh, and my mom refuses to get on a plane. Commenter, NTA. Your mom is way too involved in your life. Has she always had such an unhealthy attachment to you? Reply, after reading the comments and thinking back on how things have been when I was a kid to now, it seems that when our dad passed away I became her stand-in. To a different commenter, she practically expected me to be a father figure to my sisters starting at 8. Even now, I have my mom's calls blocked because when my sisters are in trouble, she calls me and tells me to talk to them instead of dealing with it herself. Update post. Unfortunately, because of another wife sharing our flight date all over Facebook, our return has been pushed back an entire month. I called my wife to let her know, and we are both devastated. I only had enough time for one phone call, so I asked my wife to let family and friends know, including my mother. Yes, I know many people might not be happy about that, but again. She didn't receive a date. My wife's text to her was just that I would not be returning until a month later, or more. My mother's reaction to that news has truly solidified what many comments were telling me. I was raised by a narcissist. Her text back to my wife was, oh, that's great. That is much better timing for me. My wife's response to my mother was, do not say that to my name. He is devastated that he will be gone longer, and he has been talking about wanting to be home ASAP since just a few months in. I wish you wouldn't have even said it to me, as I'm devastated by his return being delayed as well. It is extremely selfish for you to be glad he is away from home for even longer simply because it works better for you. I have never in my life heard of a mother being glad that her child will be overseas longer than what was planned. After that, she blocked my mom. Her shiny spine is really developing. I have not reached out to my mother, and I will not be doing so. I won't block her. As with my sisters being minors, I would like for one of us, my wife or I, to have at least some line of communication in case of some family emergency. However, I will not be texting or calling, and any of her texts or calls will not be answered unless I consider them an emergency. There were a few questions and deeper explanations from my original post, so I figured I would go into them deeper here. My father passed away when I was 6. Ever since then, my mom has sort of relied on me when it came to raising my sisters. Even with them being high school aged, it continued. When I went into the military, my mom got upset, saying things at home would be just terrible with me gone, that she didn't know how she would handle my sisters on her own, and that life would seem more pointless without her son in it every single day. When my wife and I got married and moved to my first duty station, she begged to trade my sisters off, sending one of them to stay with us every few weeks, where they would stay in our living room. She even told us we would need to purchase a hide-a-bed couch for it to work out. Obviously, that had never happened as I told her my sisters were my sisters, and her kids. It was not my responsibility to raise them. My mom and I were very close when I was growing up. I considered her one of my best friends, and someone I could always go to. That changed when I got married. I also realized that some of the things she did were not healthy or good parenting moments. My mom started purchasing condoms for me when I was only 12. She was very open about sex with me, and was not one to shy away from it. She was completely fine with me having sex at such a young age, which did lead me to being a bit of a man-whore. Before my wife, I constantly snuck girls in, snuck out to hang out with girls, and whatever else. My wife was the first girl that I brought to my house during the day, introduced to my family, and invited her for dinner. My wife was also very strict with her views on sex when we started dating. We were friends before, so she knew I was a bit of a player. Where I viewed sex as something fun, she viewed it as something that should only be between two people who truly love each other. She was not down for it until a few months into us dating, and I was willing to wait for her. We still snuck around, but when she snuck me in, we quite literally played Mario Kart, watched movies, and hung out all night. When this part of me changed, it changed something about my mom for some reason. She did used to ask about girls I was sleeping with when I was in high school, but when she asked about my wife when we started dating, and I told her we weren't doing anything like that, she got frustrated about me lying. She stopped buying me condoms, which I was fine with because I didn't need them in the beginning, and when I did, I was 18 and completely fine buying them myself. Before my wife and I ever did have sex, she would come in my room and scream about how she didn't want me having sex under her roof. I thought that she just realized that encouraging a minor to have sex wasn't okay. My mom also liked my wife when she was just my girlfriend. This always confused me until I read people's comments. Her going from loving her, inviting her to everything, asking where she was when she wasn't with me, to trash talking her didn't make sense to me until people in the comments of my last post clarified that it was the fact that she was my wife. Her being permanent is what my mother doesn't like. And as far as cock blocking, my mom has happily done that since we've been married. She screeched and hit her face when I kissed my wife at our wedding. She begged us to sleep on a pallet in her living room on our wedding night. We didn't. She tried calling 3 times a day when we first moved, once around the time I usually got off work, once either during or after dinner, and once at night. Sometimes while my wife were mid-tango, sometimes when we were already asleep. It was very rare that I actually answered these calls, and when she realized her calls were muted they faded away. She FaceTimed seemingly once an hour on our first wedding anniversary. Again, I didn't answer. Her wanting us to host her when I first got back was not her being clueless. She knew what she was trying to do. Now that I have a new return date, my mother will not even know the possible weeks I might have leave. She won't need to. I do not plan on seeing her outside of maybe going out to eat with her, my wife, and the rest of my family. My wife will be organizing it, and will be able to ask my sisters about days my mother is off work. That's all I have as far as an update right now. I may post more before returning just based on how things go. I can imagine I will have plenty of an update when I do actually return. Side post. Title: not an update, but related to my post about the post having to do with my mother. Editor's note: this post answered a lot of questions people had, but did not include an update. It was a fairly long post so I did not include the text here, but if you have questions they are probably answered in this post. Update Post 2. Hello everyone. I am now officially home, and have been for the past week. I've stayed off social media, for the most part as I've been spending time with my wife and seeing friends who also just returned from a desperate deployment. Being home with my family has been absolutely great. The morning I was meant to leave, my wife and I both agreed that we were going to block my mom until agreeing otherwise. That way, when communicating about flights, layovers, and landing times, nothing would be interrupted when time was running out, and we could enjoy this time without another worry. Unfortunately, storms delayed our landing and our welcome home ceremony was pushed all the way back to 11 p.m. However, that didn't ruin the night. My wife got to the ceremony, looked beautiful, helped me grab most of my things, and we went home. We were able to enjoy our night. She had several cute decorations, welcome home banners, gifts, and she even made a steak and potatoes dinner which we ate at midnight. So far, our time together has been amazing. And last night, my wife and I talked, and we decided that I would unblock my mom for now, but continue with not communicating outside of emergencies. Now, here is the update on details with my mother. Some of this stuff happened before my return, and some just now. I thought it would be better to just lump them together for those who are only here for the drama read. When I found out the exact day I would return home, I called my wife and let her know. She asked me if I had let anyone in my family know anything, or if I was keeping it to myself. As far as the date of me being back in our hometown, I decided to no longer keep it a surprise. I will be home for a while before actually returning there, and my wife and I don't want to try to hide the fact that I'm there or pretend I'm still gone or anything. So, I said to my wife that I was going to talk to my family and let them know. However, my plan wasn't to let my family know what day I landed. I told them that I would be home on the date that I got leave to go see people. The day I was getting home, my wife posted a picture on her private story around noon. It showed the welcome home banner, and our 2 dogs sitting in front of it, and the caption said, "We're so ready." My sisters are on this private story, but she didn't think to take them off because she thought that I told them I would be flying in on that day. That's my bad, as I didn't specify and just told my wife I let them know when I would be home. So, while my mom was at work, my sisters FaceTimed my wife and asked about it. My wife explained that and they explained that I told them a different date, to which she said, "Oh, he must have been talking about the date he gets to come see everyone there." They all laughed it off, and then moved on and talked about different stuff for another hour, until my sisters told her my mom was home and that they were going to go. 30 minutes later, my wife got another call from my sister, but when she answered it, it was my mom. My mom said, "Wait, is he getting home today?" And my wife said yes. My mom snapped back with, "Well, that would have been nice to know." And my wife, trying to keep the peace, told her, "I'm sorry, he told me that he already talked to you guys about it, but when he did he was talking about when we would be able to travel back and see everyone." My mom told her, "Well, for some reason he doesn't understand that we can go places too and we could travel too." To which my wife said, if you guys would like to come here before he gets leave to see him, that is something I would be all for if you want to talk to him about it. The best time to do that would be in 2 weeks, when he has a 4-day weekend. Other than that, I'm not sure what days he has off. My mom said, I don't care about what days he has off. We could have been there to see him fly in or even just see him after work. My wife replied, well, I know that, or the first week at least, they have told people it's not a good idea to invite guests. They try to keep reintegration between home families at first. I know when my cousin came back from deployment, they weren't even letting outside family on base for the welcome home ceremony. After that call, my wife texted the conversation to me. I finally decided to open my mom's texts. Just to take a peek. It was nonsense about how they should be here. I took this opportunity away from them, blah blah blah. I gave a response finally. I told her, I gave you the dates for when I would see you. I gave you the date for when I would be back in our hometown, and that is the date I would like to see people. If I wanted you to be at my welcome home ceremony, and if I wanted you to visit in the time between when I land and when I get leave, I would have invited you. After that text, I blocked my mom, and that is when my wife and I agreed to both have he blocked. Today, when I unblocked her, my plan was to speak with her about planning a dinner when we get back. That way, I could be with the entire family at once. I would up vetoing that conversation when I opened texts from every single day, about how I stripped her golden moment of getting to be the one welcoming her son back. So, these dinner plans will be discussed with my sisters, grandparents, and won't be involving my mother. That's all she wrote on this story. I'm sure I'll have other things to say about my mother somewhere on here in the future, but this is officially the final update on this one. Thanks to all the comments and people who reached out. It's crazy how many people have engaged with this story, and the fact that it's been read on YouTube channels is mind-boggling. I have greatly appreciated all of the conversations my posts have sparked up. Update Post 3. Title: My mother threatened suicide over not being the first to see me. My first post outside of the many mom updates from a previous one, and of course it's here. I got home from deployment about a month ago. My leave just now started, and while we waited for my leave, we came to a decision that we likely wouldn't be seeing my mother as much while we were visiting home because of things she pulled during the process of me getting home. We drove through the night. Oftentimes we choose to do so because it's a 13-hour drive, and driving through the night means our 2 dogs will sleep and we don't have to make as many stops. We pulled into my in-laws' house around 6 a.m. They live on a farm with other large dogs, so we fed our dogs, let them out to play for the morning, and went inside to get a little sleep before the rest of the day. When we woke up around 11, my wife's family had a few small things planned for us to do, then we planned to see friends. Mind you, my leave is 3 weeks long, so we have plenty of time to see everyone and do everything. While we were getting ready to leave, I got a call from my mother. I decided to answer it, despite low contact, because I figured it would be her asking when we would see my family. Instead, it was her telling me she was suicidal. After everything, I do still love my mother. I do still care, but I don't want to let her manipulate me. I panicked, but I didn't want to make a big deal, so I gave her my best advice and went back into the spare room with my wife. I talked to my wife about the call, and she asked if we needed to go ahead and go there instead. I told my wife no, and that it was okay and we would see them the following day for my grandma's birthday. Then I got 3 more calls from my sisters and grandma, asking if I had spoken to my mom yet. My wife suggested I call one of them back, or call my mom, and just make sure someone is home with her. And if they weren't, then we could stop by and make sure everything is okay. I called my mom and asked if she was okay. I got an answer as if nothing was ever wrong. I asked if we needed to come there or if she was with people. She said everyone was home with her, and that we didn't have to come there if we didn't want to. Especially because we are busy seeing everyone else first. I was confused and she told me she was completely okay. I lost it. I shouted at her for telling me she would kill herself and then telling me everything was completely fine. I asked what made her feel that way, and she told me it was because everyone is more important than her. I didn't know what to say. I just hung up. We left and did all of our plans with everyone else. We are now taking my grandma out to lunch today, so that my wife and I can see her for her birthday. But we decided it was best we didn't hang with my mom if she was going to pull this stuff as soon as we woke up after getting here. Update Post 4. I, 22M, have a very strained relationship with my mother. Almost a year ago, I made a few posts about her, and the whole realization of things unraveled right on Reddit if anyone's interested in reading those. But the long story short is enmeshment. About a year ago, I decided to go no contact with my mother because of a stunt she pulled. Between then and now, my mother has tried to contact us through social media, by using my grandma's phone, and my younger sister's phones, but when we find out it is her, if we don't know right off the bat, we simply stop the conversation there. After a while, things were peaceful. Last month, I found out I will need surgery on my knee. Nothing serious, just a quick repair from an injury. My mother found this out because I told my grandma, and she pressured her into talking about it. My surgery date is coming up at the beginning of May, and I will have a bit of time off before then to visit family and friends because I will not be able to travel during my recovery. My wife and I talked about it, and we decided that things have been peaceful long enough that it may be worth trying again with my mother. So, we unblocked her, and I let her know that at the end of April, we would be there to visit for a week. I let her know this 2 weeks ago, and things have been smooth sailing since then, until today. My mother asked if she could call me to talk about my upcoming visit yesterday. I told her that would be fine, and the first thing she asked about was if I would be staying at her house for the week that we're there. I told her that we could probably stay for a night or two, but that we would again be traveling with our dogs, and she doesn't have the space to accommodate them for an entire week, and I also said that my wife and I didn't want to cram together on a small couch to sleep for the week. So, she asked if my wife could stay at Mael's house with the dogs, and I could stay at hers. I told her that I would be staying with my wife, and reiterated that we would be willing to stay at hers house for a night or two. Eventually, she said fine, and the call was over. She started texting me more, and I told her that I would prefer our contact remain low right now, considering we are coming off of no contact. She agreed and didn't message me for the rest of the day. This morning, while I was at work, she called me. I had a bit of free time, so I answered and let her know I wouldn't be able to talk for long. She proposed to me that she come stay at our place the week of my surgery to help take care of me. I told her that I appreciated the offer, but that my wife would have it covered. I reminded her that we have one bedroom, and that I would prefer to be left alone as much as possible while I recover. I had to go, so nothing more was said, but when I got off work, I saw that I had 17 unread text messages. 16 from my mother and 1 from my wife. To preface, the message from my wife said, "Oh Lord, she's on one." The messages to me started with her talking about how she's more than happy to stay on the couch, or even book a hotel for the week, and come to our apartment before I woke up and after I went to sleep. At that point she began messaging these plans to my wife, but told my wife that I had already agreed to those plans. My wife simply responded, "I haven't heard from him, so I'll talk to him when he's home." She then went back to messaging me, and told me that my wife said she would prefer my mother's help in taking care of me. Then she texted my wife that I said I preferred she took care of me. The messages to me then changed to saying that my wife actually wanted to go home during this time to visit friends, so her coming to take care of me while my wife already planned to be gone would work perfectly. And her messages to my wife said that I wanted only my mother to take care of me, and that I thought my wife should have fun and see friends back home. My wife responded with, "I don't think that's true." And then she relocked my mother. I told my mother that I wasn't going to offer another chance. That she was already blocked on my wife's phone and that if she messaged me about this again that she would be blocked on mine again as well, and that when I visit home, she is not someone I will be seeing. I only got around to sending that message an hour ago, after dealing with heavy storms, so I guess we will see what comes of it. And trust me, I know that the right answer might be to not give another chance and block her now. But I'm truly interested in seeing if my mother has started to understand things a bit better. I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt by thinking that after being blocked for so long, she's just overly excited, and maybe that's silly of me. But I guess we will see what tomorrow brings. Comments. Commenter, I see you plan to draw a line about excessive texting. That's awesome. But what about the manipulation and outright lies? Are you going to address those behaviors? Man, the second my mom starts the triangulation BS, we are done. I will not be lied to. And also, how dumb does she think you are? That you just believe her when she said your wife would be traveling? Super nuts. I wish you luck. And honestly, I'd love an update. Reply, I do plan to address it. I'll probably message or call her about it today. Right now, I have her notifications on mute and can't see if she's texted or called me unless I actually open her messages, which I won't be doing until after work. Not sure what she expected to get out of the lying, or where her head was at. Did she expect my wife and I not to discuss it when I was home? Stories number 2. My 27M, FIL, 59M, led a smear campaign against me and came between me and my wife, 29F. I'm lost. How do I forge forward? My 27M, wife, 29F, and I aren't in a good place. It's not a fun feeling. I feel context is important here. We're college sweethearts married for 6 years and have a daughter, 4F. Our constant hurdle is family. It's like having to validate our relationship. I always thought my wife was worth it, though. I haven't felt for anyone else the way I do about her. My wife's family is very old school. They're conservative in their beliefs and values. My FIL, 59M, is treated as the captain and looked to as the head. My relationship with him was never smooth, not for my lack of trying. Him putting up with me only came after my daughter. I don't believe he's ever thought I was good enough for his daughter. I wasn't his first choice or in his top 5. I don't share their gated community or fancy school's background. My FIL always had some backhanded remark about my upbringing. During a family gathering at my in-laws last Christmas, my FIL's iPad went missing. He blew a fuse and accused me of stealing it. His reasoning was there was a period of time I was alone in the house. I was never actually alone in the house. I was helping my MIL, 58F, in the kitchen because people were kicking back their feet while she was slaving away for a big family. There was no reasoning with him. He called the police and actually told the officers how a real man would own up when caught, but I was never taught to be a man. Another backhanded remark. I was raised in a household of women. My FIL expressed once that only a man can raise a boy into a man. I spoke up for myself during his rantings. The whole situation was humiliating, but I had nothing to hide. The officers had to de-escalate and stood around until everyone went their separate ways. My FIL did a smear campaign on social media accusing me of theft and saying how I wasn't family. Some real vicious stuff was said. It impacted my life. I lost a job opportunity because his posts came up in the vetting process. The company was rebranding and didn't want drama associated. Essentially, I was shunned from the family. There were those who didn't agree with my FIL, but they wanted to stay out of it. No one wanted to cross him. I was no longer welcomed on my in-laws' property until I confessed and apologized. My wife still attended everything without me and took our daughter with her even on NYE. I wanted to spend it with her and our daughter, but she chose to appease her dad and keep tradition. During all of my FIL's accusations, the smear campaign, and shunning, my wife didn't lend me support in any way. She bowed to her dad and would tell me to just apologize. She said I was being stubborn by refusing. It wasn't about apologizing. My FIL wanted me to beg. I'm not a prideful person, but I'm not getting on my knees and pleading for forgiveness for something I didn't commit. My wife said she was only trying to keep the peace instead of being right. Once my FIL badmouthed me around our daughter, and my wife never spoke up. She claimed she didn't hear him. I don't believe she would have done anything either way. Our daughter kept me afloat. I put my foot down on her attending gatherings after the badmouthing. My wife accused me of escalating by withholding our daughter. I felt my FIL tried to influence my child against me. My move was for boundaries. I wasn't asking my wife to cut off her dad. I know how important family is to her. But we're married. We have a child. We made vows. I only wanted her to be there for me as my partner and best friend. She abandoned me. I had more support from my MIL and SIL, 35F, than I ever did from her. We fought a lot. We were pushed to a new level of argument. I held everything in, and we'd blow up. My wife said she'd dealt with her dad her whole life, and she learned sometimes it was better to just yield. About a month ago, my name was cleared. My SIL found the iPad in her son's, 9M, room. He confessed to taking it. He was afraid to say anything after my FIL's reaction to me. My FIL has never apologized or publicly recanted. He acts like nothing happened, and the rest of the family followed suit. He had my MIL relay that I was welcome to their home again. Others began inviting me to functions. I've declined for myself and my daughter. I'm not holding grudges or using my daughter as punishment. I saw who my FIL was clearly. I don't want any involvement with him unless necessary, nor is my daughter allowed to have unsupervised visits with him. I don't want her exposed to the ugliness. The situation remains a sore on my marriage. My wife won't talk about it. If I try, she says I'm throwing the past in her face. I'm just trying to open up to her about how everything still affects me. She feels I'm not working toward keeping the peace. My FIL falsely accused me of theft, led a smear campaign, badmouthed me around our daughter, and was enabled by some family. This is me keeping the peace. If this post is the right call. My wife wouldn't approve, but there's no talking to her about this in any real way. I'm lost. We've never been so disconnected. I'm in love with her. I wouldn't have stayed if I wasn't. I want to work on our marriage and do right by our daughter. I don't regret my choice on my FIL, but I am questioning if I'm making things worse. I feel alone. I need a fresh perspective. How do I move forward as healthily as possible for my marriage when it were to step? TLDR, my FIL falsely accused me of stealing from him and went on a smear campaign. I was essentially shunned from the family. He even badmouthed me around my child. I received no support from my wife whatsoever. She wanted me to apologize to keep the peace. The whole ordeal came between us. My name was cleared, but my FIL hasn't apologized. I don't want anything to do with him or for my daughter to have unsupervised contact with him. My wife doesn't support me on this. I want to work on our marriage and do right by our daughter. How do I move forward as healthily as possible for my marriage when it were to step? Comments. Commenter 1. This problem is much simpler than you think. You think you're fighting a battle against your FIL and can somehow magically win him over and everything will be okay. Your FIL is actually an asshole, but the real problem is that your wife is actually a shitty partner. Keeping the peace is just code for, I want you to be the target so I'm not inconvenienced by the conflict. Your marriage is not healthy because your wife is not on your side. She's stated quite clearly that she'll go along with her father. You can't change that. You can decide if you want your life to be like this forever. Commenter 2. Same, this is a wife problem. I'm very sorry for what you're going through with this situation. It sounds horrible. Commenter 3. This is also a mother problem. She let this affect her daughter. OP, do you really want your daughter to learn that your FIL or wife's behavior is correct? You need to set a hard boundary. Your wife needs therapy and to set boundaries with her dad or cut him off. What happens if your FIL accuses your daughter of something? Just go along and don't rock the boat. Or what if he accuses you of something again? This isn't about you working on the marriage. Your wife needs to. Commenter 4. I'm going to be honest. You are fighting for a relationship with a woman who doesn't care about you. I know it will hurt, but it's in your own best interest to two-card her here, counseling or divorce. You can find a situation she doesn't care to solve by yourself, and you can't stay in a relationship where your wife is fine with her family demeaning and excluding you without apology. Wife, things haven't been good for a while now. You've chosen your family over our family unit. You did nothing to defend me against your family and you want me, the wronged party, to forgive and forget when an apology was never even offered. I'm willing to fight for our relationship, but I'm not willing to rug sweep anything. Let's be honest, your father has never liked me, and if a situation like this happens again, as our marriage currently stands, we won't make it through. I would have never let my own family sit there and treat you the way your family has treated me. I would have never allowed them access to our child while they were talking about you behind their back. The past few months have been difficult. I have been fighting a battle with your family as you did nothing to support me during that time, and your ask that I take hits I didn't earn or deserve to keep your family's peace demonstrated how little you care for me. I'm not apologizing to your family as I did nothing wrong, and if they want to rug sweep, I'm perfectly fine not having a relationship with them. As for our relationship, I've talked to a divorce attorney and a marriage counselor. Think it over and decide which path you want to take, because I want a partner in my life and your actions these past few months have shown me that I don't have one. Update. I, 27M, want to thank everyone for the support. I appreciate it. The original post was the first time I put everything out there and didn't feel dismissed. The situation with my FIL, 59M, was extensive and largely unaddressed by my wife, 29F. It occurred to me that, not being able to open up to her, I didn't know how to communicate with her anymore. The feedback I received was a real eye-opener. My issue isn't isolated to my FIL. This isn't solely a spat with in-laws. It's an issue involving my wife. Things with my FIL are what they are. I'm not seeking a deeper connection with him. We're in-laws, nothing more, nothing less, and he made it abundantly clear in his smear campaign that I wasn't family but a hurdle the family needed to overcome. My concern is my wife and our daughter, for F, they're my family and my focus. That said, I realize I can't make my wife do anything. I can't make her communicate with me. I can't make her instill boundaries with her dad. I only have a say for myself and our daughter. I know something needs to change. Our marriage can't be sustained this way. It's not good for anyone, especially our daughter. After getting my feelings out, I've felt more resolved with what I needed to do. I told my wife about the original post. She's seen it in some comments. She wasn't thrilled, but to her credit, she didn't automatically shut me down like usual. She was open to hearing what I had to say. If ultimatum is the right term, because I wasn't trying to force her to choose anything. I'm just trying to implement boundaries for our daughter and our marriage. I told her that things needed to change because our marriage couldn't survive like this. No one should feel alone or abandoned in their marriage. The options were either couples therapy or separation. She didn't take to separation well. She seemed repulsed by it. She said she knew we weren't in a good place, but she didn't realize that was where I was at and how we made vows and our bond is supposed to withstand. She feels her dad shouldn't take away from us. I told her I wasn't taking separation lightly. Our vows do mean something, but whether she admits it or not, she checked out on our vows in favor of her dad. It wasn't keeping the peace. It was me drowning while she was on her dad's boat and never tossed me a line. Our issues are bigger than just her dad. Our current way isn't it. My wife chose therapy. We found a therapist, and it's officially scheduled. I want to be hopeful, but that's not something I've let myself feel for a bit now. I don't believe she was only telling me what she thought I wanted to hear. I saw the reality of it hit her when separation was put on the table. I asked her if MC was something she really wanted. I'm not talking about the sometimes it's better to yield thing she said about her dad or for keeping the peace. I was asking what she genuinely wanted. She said it was and that she doesn't want to lose our relationship or our family. Some have questioned why I'd want to try working on my marriage. It's not about staying for our daughter. I want to make a real attempt for my family and see if things can be mended. I know there's more to my wife than just my FIL. I fell in love with her because of who she was as a person. When we met and got to know each other, it was away from her dad. I saw how caring she was for others even if she didn't agree with their POV, how decent she was, and how she had a weight off her shoulders with distance from her dad's shadow. My wife is the youngest of her siblings, and I would say my in-laws hold on to her more tightly. I didn't know how bad things were until I actually dealt with my FIL. It's why she chose a long-distance school and didn't go home on breaks often. Her work moved us closer to home and she was back into the fold fully. My FIL's smear campaign was our first major obstacle following that. I'm in love with my wife, but I'm not speaking out of blind love. Whether we're together or not, I want the best for her. Part of my hope for MC is that she regains sight of herself separate from her dad and sees that boundaries for herself aren't crossing a line. Maybe we can recover together and come out better for it. I know we got married a little young. Trust me, we'd heard our fair share from the skeptics, but I was always sure of my wife. Marriage wasn't something I took lightly. I didn't expect there to be nothing but clear skies, but we should want more from each other. Being there for each other and emotional intimacy are the bare minimum. We should be a team. Our family is the core before any other relationship. To me, our vows mean consciously choosing each other and committing to each other even when it's hard. What MC will bring. It'll be my first experience with therapy. All I can do is take everything one step at a time and reaffirm boundaries for myself and my daughter. I'm not withholding my daughter as punishment or holding grudges. I don't even want an apology from my FIL because I know it'll be empty. I'm just done giving him any more power. I'm protecting my daughter too. To those who haven't experienced something like this, I hope you never will, and for those in a similar struggle, I hope for nothing but the best for you. You're not alone. Thank you for showing me that I'm not either. TLDR update on, my FIL falsely accused me of stealing from him and went on a smear campaign. I was essentially shunned from the family. He even badmouthed me around my child. I received no support from my wife whatsoever. She wanted me to apologize to keep the peace. The whole ordeal came between us. My name was cleared, but my FIL hasn't apologized. I don't want anything to do with him or for my daughter to have unsupervised contact with him. My wife doesn't support me on this. I want to work on our marriage and do right by our daughter. How do I move forward as healthily as possible for my marriage when it were to step? Comments. Commenter 1. If your wife is open to therapy and is honest during the process, then expect to see a lot of trauma surrounding her childhood and relationship with her dad come out. As adults, we can project the traumas dysfunctional relationships we experienced as children onto our partners, in hope of healing or regaining some control around a specific situation or trigger. I'd expect that you will also see some strange parallels between the communication style she has with her dad, and how it has become projected onto you. Hopefully your therapist will help you find healthy ways to communicate openly and honestly with each other. It's positive that your wife is open to it, and I'm glad that this is a fairly positive update. I hope you can both work through this and find happiness, together or not. Good luck. Commenter 2. This is so true. I realized I was doing it in my relationship. We did couples therapy for an unrelated issue and it started to come out anyway, and I realized it was something I need to work on. I will not say I'm totally cured of it or whatever, but even the awareness of it makes me look at situations far less rigidly, because I can be like, oh, that was how my parents handled things, but that doesn't mean I have to do that too. Let me ask my partner about XYZ instead of just making assumptions. Commenter 3. I would adamantly insist that FIL will only see his granddaughter if I am there. There would be an ultimatum with him: if he ever says anything negative about me in front of her, he will never see her again until she's 18. I believe if she's a good, level-headed person, that therapy should open her eyes to how shitty her dad's behavior is. Good luck. Reply: yeah, that's locked down. He isn't allowed any unsupervised visits with my daughter. He lost that privilege when he decided to include her in his vendetta and bad-mouth me around her. Commenter 4. I think the part I'm having a hard time with is the fact that your wife didn't defend you. My mother pulled similar shit with my wife and I called her out on it hard. And I'm also afraid of my mom, but I'm not financially dependent on her. And that's the kicker. There's no power that my mother holds over me that would make me choose her over my wife. I'm also a woman. I wonder if for your wife if there's some sort of power her father is holding over her. It doesn't make what she did right, but give some clarity if you want to continue dealing with this in the long run. If there is, this might never get resolved even with therapy. Stories number 3. Aita for refusing to let my boss's kids eat my food. In February, I, 19F, arrived in the US as an au pair. If you don't know how the program works, basically you're hired as a nanny but you're not paid a lot. I get $196 per week, because the family gives you a place to stay and food, in their house, and they also pay for your studies, up to $500. It was the only way I could afford to have the exchange experience, and I really wanted to take this chance, so I came. The 2 kids I take care of are great, we talk a lot and I already learned so much from them. The problem I have is with their parents. Since I arrived, they told me that I'm only allowed to eat the items from one cabinet, nothing else, and they will only replenish once a month, and they have cameras and will see if I try anything. I don't know if this is true but I wouldn't steal anyway. In my cabinet they just put tortillas, a few canned vegetables, beans and mac and cheese boxes. No snacks, drinks, cheese or meat, chicken, none of these. I talked with my agency here and they told me that the family is allowed to do that as long as they give me food, and I can try to match with another family, and wait for the process, or go back home. I don't want to give up so I stayed, but the food thing was really getting to me, so I started to use the money to put things in my cabinet. The problem is that they are super healthy, and they don't let their kids eat Chips Ahoy, Pringles, beef jerky, stuff like that. I wasn't trying to eat in front of the kids on purpose. But I spend most of my day with them, when they aren't in their classes, and I get hungry, so I eat in front of them, and they started to ask me to eat too. My money doesn't get me very far, my parents have no way of helping me, and these snacks can last for days when I pace myself, so I just told them they would need to ask their parents for snacks cause I didn't have a lot to share. They did, and their mom blew up at me, in front of them, telling me that I had a lot of audacity denying her kids food inside her home, that if I ate in front of them, I had to share, and that I couldn't bring this kind of junk into her home. I couldn't really say anything in fear of her just dumping me on the street, but I told her I didn't have enough money to buy an amount that I could share with her kids, or buy healthier, and that I would really like to share mine if they shared theirs. I meant the food the family eats. I don't ask the kids for their snacks or food ever. She said I was lucky she really needed a nanny and that's it. I told my parents about it and they think she's wrong but that I am too for how I dealt with it, and for taking it out on the kids when it's not their fault. My au pair friends also think for denying food to little kids. If I kept buying junk even after she told me they aren't allowed in her home. Stories number 4. AITB for not letting my boyfriend be the hero while we were getting mugged at knife point. My boyfriend is a big hero fanatic and does everything in his power to be like one. It's really endearing and it's one of the many things I love about him, because he wants to be the good he wishes to see in the world. But this mindset he has is why we are fighting right now. We've been quarantining at my apartment, he's not on the lease, and he suggested we go on a night walk since we've been getting stir-crazy from being inside all day. He figured that it'd be better for social distancing to go out at night. I was hesitant because we live in a bad neighborhood, but he assured me he'd protect me. On our walk, we were cornered by a man with a knife that demanded our wallets. I remembered John Maloney's Street Smarts bit from the Netflix show and was going to throw my wallet past the mugger so we could run away, but my boyfriend started arguing with him and was spouting off a bunch of stuff about justice and how the mugger wouldn't get away with this. It looked like he was getting ready to fight. I was taken aback by this, and I guess the mugger was too, because it gave me enough time to take the important stuff out of my wallet while he was distracted. I interrupted my boyfriend's monologue and said, "Take it, just don't hurt us," and threw it behind the guy. When he turned, I grabbed my boyfriend's hand and we booked it back to the apartment. We got home safely, and I was relieved that we were okay, but my boyfriend was fuming. He was pissed that I interrupted him from protecting me when he could have, in his words, clearly handled it himself. I told him he could have gotten himself killed. He said that he was obviously stronger than the mugger and would have won. I explained to him that the guy had a weapon and my boyfriend didn't, so the odds were stacked against him. Not only that, but I didn't want my boyfriend to get killed over a damn wallet. We argued for longer than necessary, so I shut it down and told him we could talk about it when our adrenaline wasn't so high, but I needed to file a police report while the event was fresh. He stomped off to our room while I called the cops. When I was off the phone, I went to lay with him but he rolled away from me. The next day, he was still angry, and had already told his friends and family about what had happened to us. I thought that they would be understanding about how I handled it, but they were mad at me for not letting him have his opportunity to be a hero. His mom even ridiculed me for emasculating him. I want to reopen the conversation so we can understand each other and move past it, but if he isn't receptive, I'm going to ask him to move back in with his mom. I want to understand where I went wrong if I went wrong, but honestly, I feel like he's being childish and unreasonable. I just want to know AITB, or is he? TLDR, boyfriend tried to play hero when we got mugged at knife point. I managed to get us away safely. He's mad that I ruined his chance. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NTB. Tell fucking Justice League over there that life isn't a movie and that anyone who fights someone who has a knife, are guaranteed, 100% going to get cut regardless of if he trains, Krav Maga, or how many Marvel movies he's seen. Reply. I told him 100x that a fist wouldn't win against a fight but he won't hear it. I don't understand how the people in his life encourage this. He could have died. Commenter 2. Send him back to his mother's to sulk there because that's what he is doing. Sulking. He insisted on going a walk in a bad neighborhood at night knowing the chances of something bad happening were high. He put you at risk. His response is childish and pathetic. How do you know that it was a real mugger and not a setup to prove to you how hero-like he can be? I honestly wouldn't stay with him. I don't see the hero worship endearing, just means that he doesn't like himself very much. It's tied into his self-esteem, so when you wouldn't let him be the hero in his eyes you smashed his sense of self-purpose self-esteem. He's also sexist as all hell, wanting to save you, dear lord. His hero fantasy is escapism at best and damaging at worst. Wannabe Superman needs some therapy. Also don't listen to all that sexist BS, your quick thinking got you both out unscathed. Emasculated my arse. Reply. You know, I really don't think he'd stoop to set up a fake mugger, but at this point I don't see how the hell he can react the way he is since this was a very real thing that happened to us. We still haven't talked about what happened yet because he went to visit his mom, probably to sulk, like you said, but these few comments are making me reevaluate a lot about his values when it comes to this hero shit. I didn't even consider the sexist undertones to everything, so thank you for pointing it out. Update. So, he called me last night and I answered. He asked if I was okay and how I was doing. Then he asked if he could come over and I said he could. I planned on bringing everything up again myself because he had been very passive-aggressive and refusing to talk about it, but when he showed up, he immediately started apologizing. Everything you guys pointed out, he started agreeing with. He was saying that he was being delusional, unrealistic, the whole hero fantasy isn't healthy, he jeopardized my safety and that wasn't okay, etc. I wasn't prepared for this behavior, especially compared to how he'd been acting all week. We talked for hours before we went to bed together and everything seemed like it worked out fine. I was really on the verge of ending things, so it was a relief I didn't have to in that moment. Then this morning came and shit hit the fan. In my comment update on the last post, I mentioned that a friend was trying to mediate. I texted that friend that things worked out, and they said something along the lines of, I'm so glad you were able to apologize. Some people mentioned that maybe he told a different story, which isn't something I looked into. But I decided to ask, and oh boy, I'm glad I did. Firstly, he told everyone that the night walk was my idea. Then, apparently, we were never mugged. Nope. Apparently I just started talking shit to a stranger on the street in an attempt to make him show he was a strong man and protect me. And the only reason we were able to get away was because he de-escalated the situation, and that it was emasculating because he was put in a position where he felt like he was forced to fight for my honor. Are you fucking kidding me? To make a long story short, he tried to play dumb and backpedal this morning when I confronted him about it, and then when I pressed him to be honest, he snapped again, and said, what was I supposed to say? The whole situation was embarrassing, and it was going to make me look bad. We argued again for a bit, but I was just done. I told him to go and that it wasn't gonna work. He didn't have much stuff so it was easy to put in a spare grocery bag and just toss at him while he angrily left. He's currently outside of my complex waiting for mommy to pick him up. As far as I'm concerned, I dodged a bullet. Fuck his friends, fuck his mom, and fuck him. Thank you for opening my eyes. TLDR, he came back ready to talk, it seemed like everything worked out fine and he was understanding. Turns out he lied to everybody about what happened and got mad when I confronted him. I kicked him out. Stories number 5. Aita for getting involved with a married woman who said she was getting divorced, and then, ruining her life. I, 19M, met this woman, 38F, at the gym a few months ago. She was super friendly, we started chatting often, and over time, it turned into something more. I know the age gap is a lot, and I was definitely unsure at first, but she made me feel seen and surprisingly comfortable. Early on, I asked about her situation because I noticed she always avoided talking about her home life. That's when she told me she was married, but she said the marriage was basically over and that they were in the middle of a divorce. She made it seem like it was just a matter of time before everything was finalized. She said they were only still living together for the sake of their kids, 17 and 15, but weren't really together anymore. I didn't love the situation, but I also didn't want to judge. I took her at her word and we kept seeing each other, though mostly outside of her home. I never pushed to meet her kids or go over. I just figured it was complicated and respected her boundaries. Her husband found out about me. I guess her older son saw messages on her phone and told him. Turns out, they weren't separated at all. No papers had been filed, no lawyers, no anything. She lied. They were still married in every sense. Now she's telling me that I ruined her life. She says she has to get divorced now because her husband won't forgive her, her kids are furious, and I forced her hand by being involved. She's calling me immature and selfish for not understanding what she was going through, and says I basically wrecked her family. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I didn't even know the full story. I only knew what she told me. If I had known she was still actively living a married life, I never would have touched this situation. I feel awful for her kids, and for being involved in something so messy, but I honestly feel like I was manipulated too. I've stopped talking to her now, but I keep wondering, did I mess this all up? Did I push too hard without realizing it? I never meant for anyone to get hurt. Stories number 6. Aita for laughing at my ex-husband's wife when she called me hysterically because my kids didn't choose to go to Disney with them on Mother's Day. My ex-husband, both 40s, and I share a 16-year-old son, 15-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old son together. We separated when I was pregnant with our 14-year-old and we officially divorced when he was 1. We have a very detailed court-ordered parenting and custody agreement that I have always followed to the T. This is to avoid adding conflict to an already higher conflict situation. For those who'll ask, my ex-husband's wife was not the reason we broke up. He did cheat on me during my 3rd pregnancy, and this was due to it being a high-risk pregnancy where I could not engage in any sexual activity with him. He felt it was a good reason to sleep with others. I did not. He has always believed I was unfair to him. Yet he did go through a paternity drama with one of the women he slept with during that time. He was proven not to be the father, but he expected me to be okay with him having unprotected sex with someone else. All of this has made it difficult for us to co-parent. It's why we need everything spelled out and why we communicate via parenting app mostly. Our youngest has a medical issue, so texting and calling is sometimes a requirement. My ex-husband remarried 4 years after our divorce was finalized. From the beginning of their relationship there were issues with his wife and our children. His wife was all over the place with our kids and appeared to take her fertility troubles out on our children by being short and snapping at them or making them feel like a problem in the home. Yet she also wanted them to call her mom and she wanted them to spend more time with her. There were times we returned to court over the issues in my ex's home. My ex tried to paint it was me alienating the kids from his wife, but he and his wife got 3 warnings for the very thing he accused me of. The judge said repeatedly encouraging children to call a person other than their parents' mom or dad was suggesting alienation of some kind. The warnings were spaced out enough that no consequences were ever given as a result. My ex and his wife were ordered to take parenting classes several years ago also. I always encourage my kids to not be cruel to the woman their dad is married to. But they don't like her and they don't respect her really. They show her some respect but they don't actually have any for her. My older son and my daughter have particularly had some encounters with her where they lost respect for her. They were in therapy for many years because the burden of this woman's infertility and IVF struggles were shared with them. And done so in a way that was meant to coerce them to give her what she wanted. The therapists were godsends to us during that time. Last year all 3 of my children were deemed old enough to decide whether they saw their father 50-50 as they had previously or whether 1 weekend a month would be the new parenting time split. All 3 chose to reduce their time to 1 weekend a month. This was something my ex and his new wife didn't like and tried to fight, but the kids say was given more weight. My ex and his wife did eventually have 2 children together. Yesterday they decided to go to Disney with the kids to celebrate Mother's Day. My ex called and asked me to let our kids come. I gave my kids the choice and they answered never. I already expected that, but I didn't want to deny them the chance if they wanted it. My ex was furious, but I ended the second call and ignored further texts from him. Then I got a call from an unknown number around 3 p.m. and it was his wife. She was hysterically crying down the phone about my kids not being there and how they were supposed to be because they're her kids too. I laughed at her antics and ended the call. I got around a dozen texts in the next 2 hours and then my ex texted me last night and this morning telling me I was heartless and suggesting I should appreciate his wife loves our kids this much. My issue was never her being good to them. It was the way she treated them. The hot and cold, the demands and expectations and attempts to guilt trip them. It's the way she acted like she had as much of a right to be their mom as I had, and all because at the time she had no kids and had fertility troubles. It's the way she made my ex's home hell for my kids. My ex allowing it is not something I've forgotten either. But I think it's crazy to think I should be grateful for any of this. But maybe I'm being an asshole. So I'll ask the people. Stories number 7. I, 22F, believe my BF, 28M, might be tampering with my toothbrush. This is probably the weirdest and most disgusting thing I've ever typed, but I think I'm slowly realizing that my boyfriend has been doing something really fucked up. We've been together for about a year and a half. He's always been a little passive-aggressive when he's upset, he won't talk things through, he just gets quiet or moody and gives me the silent treatment. Or accuses me of trying to continue arguments when I'm trying to hash things out until the conversation ends. He loves to reset and act like an issue or disagreement never happened. Anyways, a few months ago, I started noticing my toothbrush was being moved. It's electronic and it would be off the charger on its side or the whole thing scooter back forward. I thought it was just getting knocked around because our counterpart is small. Eventually, I started noticing that it would be wet in the middle of the day or other times when I hadn't recently brushed my teeth. One time I noticed something on it like it had been used to clean grout. That's when I started keeping a small spare toothbrush hidden in my makeup bag which never was moved or messed with. Here's the part that really makes me feel sick. I finally confronted him after struggling to come to the reality that someone might be this disgusting and said something straightforward along the lines of, "Are you doing something to my toothbrush when you're mad at me?" And he just laughed and said, "You're crazy." And then refused to talk about it further. I don't even know how to process that. Like what? I haven't seen him do it, so I don't have proof. But I know something's up. I feel crazy, but my gut is screaming at me that this is real and he is getting back at me by putting my toothbrush in the toilet or something else gross. I haven't told anyone because it's honestly humiliating and gross. But I feel trapped between thinking I'm paranoid and realizing I might be with someone who would literally put my toothbrush in the toilet to get back at me. What do I even do? Sum of comments. Commenter 1, would already be breakup worthy to me in a 1-5-year relationship. The fact that there's even a shadow of a doubt in your mind that he's capable of doing something this awful and disgusting would make me run for the hills. There are better guys out there, I promise. And being alone is x1000000 better than being with someone who'd tamper with your stuff. Reply, you're right. I could definitely imagine it because he is petty and has done similar things like purposely leaving my food out to spoil and then returning it to the fridge because he was angry that I didn't feel like cooking and got delivery instead. He seems to get off on silently one-upping me, but all I want to do is talk things through because I have known him a very long time and care about him. Commenter, just break up. The fact that he's moody and gives you the silent treatment is enough of a reason. It's immature and exhausting behavior. But if you have this gut feeling about your toothbrush, just trust it and leave. You don't need proof. You don't need a good enough reason. Also, his response is bogus. If my husband asked me if I had tampered with my toothbrush, I'd reassure him, not call him crazy. Then I'd give him a new toothbrush from my stash if he doubted his. His response of calling you crazy is just unkind and doesn't explain your legit concern. Does he gaslight you in other ways? There are so many men out there that you won't have to worry about this with. Just dump him. Reply, I think I already knew I was going to but needed reassurance to get the courage and I've been too embarrassed to talk about it IRL. He's asleep next to me right now and I haven't been able to sleep all night thinking about this dumb shit, so I made a throwaway LOL. I don't know if he gaslights me, but he definitely believes there is a give and take to everything, and if I upset him then in turn he has full rights to retaliate towards me whether he mentions the issue to me or not. He's demeaning and discourages me from attending classes. What I was holding on to our old friendship and feelings, I guess. I could tell he thought me realizing was genuinely funny. Ugh. Commenter, please recognize that he's risking your health doing stuff like this. You could get food poisoning and have to go to the ER, which would give you a bill and cause you to miss work. If he's messing with your toothbrush, heaven knows what he's doing with it and what bacteria is being introduced into your body. This guy is nasty. This is beyond passive-aggressive. This is sabotage. This is intentional hostile acts. This is breakup and ghost him worthy. Reply, I know the worst part is that particular punishment started after I confided that I have food anxiety and am very anxious about gross stuff when it comes to that. It happened more than once before I broke down and he told me he didn't realize it would actually hurt me, just tick me off enough to stop wasting money. Why I stayed with him. I definitely have my own stuff to work through. But now I'm in a state with no family because we moved to be closer to his daughter and I'm spiraling. Commenter, Girl, what is he actually contributing to your life besides humiliation, pain and stress? Dude's almost 30 and instead of being an adult, he's messing with your stuff. Please don't waste any more of your life on this child. Reply, I care a lot about his kid and help take care of her, and I thought we had a beautiful friendship for years before getting together. Commenter, you're 22, you're far too young to be looking after someone else's kid and their father who is acting like a kid. Imo, not worth the stress. Reply, I agree, there is a lot of pressure from my family and his to continue being a caregiver for her because the situation is difficult. I don't really have a home to go back to since they support him and want me to stay in this relationship. Commenter, I think you need to start making your exit plans. Get your finances in a row. I hope you have a separate bank account no one else has access to. Do you have a full-time job? Do you have friends you could stay with for a few months so you can look for a place of your own? Seems like your family and his have basically groomed you to step in as a mother to this kid. Where is her actual mother? Reply, I have been stowing away money over time, but I don't work. I stay home and basically take care of the house because the only thing I have experience in is serving and bartending, and both of those are a hard no for him. Most of my friends at this point are his friends, but I could maybe try some friends back home. Her actual mother was really young when she had her baby and moved back in with her parents. She has visits but doesn't take care of her on her own. Commenter, those are a hard no for him. Girl, the more I read your comments, the more it sounds like you're stuck in a prison. Yes, please reconnect with your friends back home. And please put a password he doesn't know on your phone so he can't see your messages. And please be on birth control. You do not want to get pregnant because then you'll truly be stuck with him. Reply, too much male attention. I think I've known I am trapped for a while but didn't want to acknowledge it because I'm scared and feel isolated, and in my upbringing I was always taught to be humble and subservient towards the men in my life. Strict evangelical family. It's like it all broke at once, and this stupid shit was the tipping point. He's already fucked with my birth control before, to the point where I went back on the depot shot without telling him. Sorry for ranting and thank you for the advice. Commenter, I have questions, for clarity. How old is the kid he has with someone else? How many years ago did you start the beautiful friendship? How-ish did you meet? What is your relationship like with your family, otherwise? These could be important things. Something feels off to me about this situation. Reply, the kid is about to turn 8 actually this weekend. Him and I met during my senior year of high school after I reached out to him about a babysitting position he had posted about. I think we had mutual friends before because his stuff has been on my feed for a long time. My relationship with my family is pretty awful. I spent my whole life taking care of my younger siblings and being discouraged from leaving to figure myself out. Now that I did leave, they act like I have no place there unless I bring him and the kid along. How old was the mother of the child? She was 17 and the child is about to turn 8. Mini update in comments. In response to someone offering money. I've gotten lots of offers and messages and I'm really uncomfortable accepting money from strangers ATP. Given how the situation has progressed, don't worry, if I needed to accept help in order to leave I would, but I don't want to do that unless it's absolutely necessary. And I am so thankful to everyone who offered that. But as of now I have something planned out to leave while he is doing his custody drop-off this weekend. I don't want to say too much because I'm honestly very paranoid about him figuring out who is coming to help me that I'm leaving, but I'll update y'all once there is more to say. Update post. When I wrote that first post, I felt sick, confused, and honestly ashamed. I didn't think anyone would even read it, let alone respond. But I did get responses, a lot of them. And something about that, being seen in a situation I've been quietly drowning in, shifted something in me. I didn't give him another chance because I still couldn't believe what was happening. I gave him one because part of me still wanted him to redeem himself. I wanted him to see how scared I was, how small he'd made me feel, and do something decent for once. After that first night I posted here, I thought maybe if I brought it up again, calmly, and gave him a real opening to be honest, he might finally do the right thing. Instead he doubled down. This time he implied it might be his daughter. An 8-year-old girl. He shrugged and said, kids do weird stuff like that, maybe she's been playing a trick on you. And when I tried to bring up how unsafe and confused I've felt for months, how he used to leave my food out on purpose when he was mad, how he pushed me to drop both work and school, how isolated and anxious I've become, he brushed it all off. Said they were just normal relationship disagreements that could have been worked through if I communicated better. It was so dismissive it actually stunned me. I realized, in that moment, that nothing I said would ever matter to him and never had. So I dropped it. I smiled. I pretended to believe him. I told him it was probably all just in my head. I didn't expect anyone to respond when I reached out. I've been so cut off from everything. But one of them did pretty much immediately, like she was waiting to hear from me again. She told me I could crash on her couch for a few weeks while I find a job back in my home state. Probably bartending or waitressing again, I don't care. I just needed out. She waited for me at a restaurant nearby. All I had to do was text her the second he left to drop his daughter off with her mom. The moment that door closed behind him, I grabbed everything I could carry, just a couple bags, and left all the big stuff behind without even looking back. It took 6 hours to get back home. But I'm here now. I'm safe. My body already feels different. Of course, I've already gotten texts. His daughter's mom. Her family. Asking where I've gone and begging me to come back or saying the kid will miss me, that I was so good with her and they need help. And yeah, I will miss her too. I really will. She didn't ask for any of this. I'm not doing this for anyone else anymore. I'm doing this for me. For the version of me who used to have friends, who used to go out, and had a whole future planned. Thanks to everyone who commented and who reminded me that being scared in your own home isn't normal. Y'all helped me find the nerve to leave. This will be my only update on Reddit probably, but if anything else exciting happens maybe I'll come back to this throwaway account and let y'all know lol. Sum of comments. Commenter, no texts from him. Only from his family. Weird. Whatever, I'm glad you're safe. Courage. Reply, I preemptively blocked him lol, but I didn't really consider that family members would reach out to me through random profiles of people I never even met IRL. I didn't block the child's mother initially either in case she wanted to reach out to me, but I have now. Commenter, congratulations XX. I did the same thing before leaving my ex, tried to give the chance to show up. I hope it helps you feel closure. I ended up giving another change remotely in the maybe we can be friends way, and of course it did not work. They show who they are. I hope you can heal, find yourself again, feel freedom and celebrate life. Reply, it helped me cement that it was over even though I already knew. Commenter, I'm so proud of you. Don't let his daughter's mom convince you to come back, she's just glad his evil attentions are on someone other than her. I had the same issues when I left my abusive ex. His whole family reached out trying to get me to come back because he was so much better with me around, because he was abusing me instead of them. Reply, I don't really think so. It's more her family and mine that rely on my support. She seems like a mute bystander. I've always felt like she isn't in the best situation with these people, maybe one day I'll reach back out to her. Commenter, and that need help. This is a huge fucking thing here. His daughter's mom, who I assume is his ex, and her family are calling you. They couldn't even keep it to the manipulation of trying to make you out to be the bad guy for hurting her feelings, they just had to bring up that they needed your help. Have any of them asked how you are when you literally had to flee your ex? Reply, her family has been messaging me like crazy trying to get me to come back. I misspoke, the daughter's mother never reached out to me herself. We've only spoken on a few occasions during drop-offs where she was very nice but quiet. Commenter, and that girl who helped you? That's amazing. She deserves a hug from every damn person on Reddit. Reply, she is amazing. I couldn't believe how quickly she was down to come so far to get me. Commenter, this is almost certainly written by AI. The phrasing, the insane amount of M-dashes, the dramatization of an accomplished author. I'm not positive, but it feels like I'm staring AI in the face and it's winking back. Dead internet theory is at work. Reply, I explained before that I do run my texts through AI because I have dyslexia and it helps me get my point across. Since it's not for school or work or anything, I figured it'd be okay to help me out, but now I wish I would have just written it and let people struggle with it lol. Stories number 8. Am I overreacting for canceling my mom's Mother's Day dinner after she told my 10-year-old son he ruined her life? For context, I, 32F, am a single mom to my amazing son, Liam, 10M. His dad dipped when I was pregnant, and my mom, 56F, was never exactly thrilled about me having a kid so young. She was always kind of passive-aggressive about it but never outright cruel, until now. I had been planning a nice Mother's Day dinner for her. Like, actually went all out, cleaned my apartment top to bottom, prepped her favorite lasagna from scratch, had Liam help me make a handmade card and even bought flowers, and I'm broke right now, so this wasn't easy. She came over around 5 p.m., all seemed fine. Then during dinner, out of nowhere, she says, and I quote, "You know, if you hadn't had Liam, I could have retired already. I gave up so much because of your choices. He ruined everything." Liam just froze. Like literally stopped chewing and looked down. I immediately told her, that's completely out of line. She just shrugged and said, well, it's the truth. Someone had to say it. I told her she needed to leave. She tried to laugh it off like I was being dramatic, but I insisted. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. Just calmly asked her to pack her things and go. After she left, I comforted my son the best I could. He didn't cry, but I could tell it crushed him. Now here's where I might be the my siblings, I have 2 brothers and a sister, found out I canceled the rest of our Mother's Day plans. We were supposed to go to brunch the next day. They're calling me sensitive and saying I blew it out of proportion and that mom's just old school. But I don't care if she's from 1920, you don't say that to a child. Especially not one who's literally never done anything but love her. So am I overreacting for canceling the celebration and asking her to leave? Or am I just finally done letting her get away with emotional landmines? Stories number 9. My 22F boyfriend, 22M, keeps letting his friend, 24M, come on our dates. Okay, how we got into this predicament in the first place, is that my boyfriend just really likes his friend, Liam, he's like a brother to him, he saved his life once, etc. But he's on all our dates. I even brought one of my single friends on a date, so we could double, and Liam and her don't date, so that failed. I've honestly asked my BF why Liam is on our dates, and he says that Liam is lonely, has nobody else, and he has no siblings or girlfriend. But then my boyfriend kind of guilts me because, I know this sounds awful, Liam is the fucking package for guilt. His mom died when he was young, then his dad and him don't talk anymore, so Liam just doesn't have anyone else to talk to. I honestly think my boyfriend is guilt-tripping me, and I don't think I can do this relationship anymore. If nothing changes, I'm leaving. This has gone on for 3 months. Like, sure, I feel bad for Liam, but I don't really know him, and it's not my problem. It's also not just dates, movie nights, he's here. Going to the mall, he's there, where is he not? TLDR, my boyfriend keeps bringing his friend on our dates, and basically guilt trips me into not kicking his friend out. Also, I know this sounds made up, I still can't believe it, but it is very much real. And I basically just need validation that it's okay to break up with my boyfriend over this, the whole post. Edit, I called my soon-to-be ex-boyfriend to meet up, and I'm gonna break up with him, I'm gonna tell him the exact reason honestly. I swear if Liam is there though, like, I'm not considering the possibility of not breaking up with him. It's not even just because of Liam, it's that he manipulates me into letting Liam come. Consensus. Everybody tells her it's okay to break up and wonder how the relationship made it that far. Update. I broke up with my ex, I'm gonna call him X, I went to where we agreed to meet up, and guess who he brought with him, you guessed it, Liam. I was very annoyed at this point, I told him I wanted to speak with him privately, and he brings fucking Liam. It's very uncomfortable to break up with someone in front of their best friend, but I was too pissed, I told him, I said I wanted to speak privately, he said, say it in front of Liam, eventually I just get annoyed and say, that's it. I don't want Liam always here in our private life, on dates, everywhere. He basically said, remember what I told you about Liam's circumstance, blah blah blah. I said something like, I'm sorry, but I don't give a fuck about what Liam's going through right now, this is about me breaking up with you. Meanwhile Liam is just standing there, looking confused. I'll get back to this later. So we basically get into a fight in this park, and it gets to the point where I tell him that he manipulates me into not kicking Liam out of our dates, and about everything he told me Liam went through, like a brother to X, saved X life, dead mom, dad absent, no siblings, friends, or girlfriend. And then X looks like he got caught or something, and Liam gets angry saying like, what did you tell her? This is all really funny and really awful at the same time. It turns out, none of what X told me was true. Liam has a fiancé, has a real brother and sister, and his mom isn't dead. So, anyway, definitely broke up with X. Like, 40 minutes later, Liam DMs me basically saying that X told Liam that I wasn't comfortable being alone with X, and that he thought I wanted him to be on the dates. Sir, what? He said the reason why he agreed is because his fiancée is living in Europe to finish up her study abroad program, and he had nothing better to do. So X just flat out is a liar, glad I broke up with him, mad I got lied to, but oh well. This was honestly not a turn of events I was expecting, and I have to get it out somewhere. End of update. Consensus. Everybody dances the banana pants dance. Comments. He never explained to Liam or me why he did it, but the vibe I'm getting from what Liam has told me and my own feelings on the matter, are that he was trying to frame Liam into looking like Liam was on the dates with me so X can show Liam's girlfriend photos or something to break up Liam and his girlfriend. That's the second runner-up. I personally think that X just did it for a sick game or something. As perfect as it would have been for X to be gay for Liam, sadly I don't think that's the case, but who knows, honestly. Me and Liam have talked every once in a while the past few days, but I'm definitely not friends with him. I'm not really sure if I can trust him, because I don't know enough about Liam to know he is not a pot stirrer himself. Liam was definitely kept in the dark about a lot of things, so it's not his fault or anything. But I just don't know the friendship I walked into. Based on what Liam said, he feels baffled. When this topic first came up he said he wouldn't know why X would do something like this, but a tiny bit of him is not really surprised. I don't know what he did before that to earn not surprised, because Liam never really gave me a straight answer. What I can take of it is he is really curious XS intentions. Hopefully this can answer any questions you might have, and if anything else needs more clearing up you can ask. Stories number 10. Aita for not chipping in for my brother's wedding when I wasn't even invited. My brother, 29M, is getting married next month, and I, 36M, just found out I'm not invited. We've been kind of distant the last few years, not a big fight or anything, just less talking, mostly on his end. I still tried to stay in touch, called him from time to time, checked in occasionally, but he never really responded much. Then earlier this year, I heard about his engagement with his girlfriend from my mother. I found it weird that he didn't tell me himself, but then he asked me if I could help chip in for the wedding, though he didn't say the exact amount but he hinted a few grands. I didn't say no but neither promised anything. For some background, even though I'm the older child, had a stricter upbringing since I was a child. I saw my parents fighting most of the time, and that heat frustration was directed at me at times, causing me to be a somewhat introverted in nature. I always had a difficult time making friends. I tend to try and avoid confrontations most of the time unless no other choice, and is more of a little quiet participant in gatherings unless approached, or have a less vocal approach in discussions. But my brother had a different treatment since he was a kid. He had a more spoiled and social upbringing and was given a lot more freedom, therefore was more extroverted in nature as well as more engaging personality. He got along others better than I ever could, so he became the more favored child, and as the years went on they started to include him more on the important matters of the house. To the point I was almost sidelined for the most part. He also showed little respect to me over the years, but I didn't mind as I was living separately with my wife and kid. And now, I hear from the others that the wedding is coming up, and they haven't reached out to me on this matter. If my uncle didn't tell me about it, I wouldn't even know anything about it. The fact this was never brought up whenever I visited them, as if they didn't even care if I knew about it at all, as if like always they were trying to sideline me in this event for reasons I don't even know. What made it worse is that most of the relatives and his friends and even some of my friends are going. So, it's definitely not some small event, it just feels like I was deliberately left out. And to be honest, I never felt so insulted. Then, out of nowhere, he calls me asking if I could help chip in for the wedding venue because they're over the budget. Just straight up shamelessly asking for money. The fact that I wasn't even kept in the loop about the arrangements, or the fact I nor my family was invited, I honestly thought it was a joke at first. When I asked whether I was invited or not, he said it was a small gathering. I blankly thought for a good minute, is this really happening? He didn't even invite me to the wedding. I wasn't considered important enough to attend, but now I'm supposed to financially support it. I responded saying that I didn't feel comfortable giving money for an event I wasn't even invited to. I simply said okay and hung up. Now our parents are pressuring me, saying I should sacrifice for your brother's happiness, and that he's probably just stressed and overwhelmed with planning that it skipped his mind. I don't know. I feel like I've tried to be supportive for years. He hasn't shown much interest in having a relationship with me, didn't invite me to his wedding in the first place, and only reached out when he needed money. I don't know, I feel like I was barely treated like family in the first place. Why should I help fund a party I'm not welcome at? Stories number 11. AIO for refusing babysit my sister's baby even though I work from home. I live in a small apartment and recently started working from home as a junior designer. It's not glamorous, I'm still new, learning a lot and working crazy hours to prove myself. I don't have much, but I'm trying to build independence. My older sister, 25F, just had a baby 3 months ago. She and her boyfriend are in a tough spot financially. Last week, she asked if I could help them by babysitting the baby during weekdays, just for a few months, since I work from home anyway. I said no. I love my niece, but I told her that I can't take care of a baby and work at the same time. It's not like I'm watching YouTube all day. I'm on video calls, tight deadlines, and constantly juggling tasks. I also don't feel ready to be responsible for a newborn. I don't even have a car or proper baby stuff. She cried. Like, full breakdown. Said I was abandoning her, that family is supposed to help, and that she would have done it for me if the roles were reversed. She told our parents, and now they're blowing up my phone saying I'm being cold, selfish, and acting like a child even though I'm an adult now. What's worse is my mom said, if you weren't working from home, I'd understand. But you're literally just sitting there. Now I feel like crap. But also, isn't their child? Just because I don't have a kid doesn't mean I'm suddenly free labor. Am I overreacting? Top comments. Commenter 1, I work from home. People really seem to think that we just sit around twiddling our thumbs all day. We're working actual jobs and many of us are busting our asses all day. She obviously doesn't think much of your job nor have a clue what working from home looks like. I'd invite her to spend a day with you while you work to convince her you're not abandoning her, but so she understands what you actually do during the day. Add she obviously doesn't think you do much. Tell her that you are just trying to show her what you do and that she can point out at any time during the day where you'd have a moment to care for a frickin' newborn. And by the way, I have 2 young kids, so I know that'd be utterly impossible. Commenter 2, Where do people like this come from? A no is a fucking no. And why do people feel guilty that they can't obviously do something? Family doesn't help family to put themselves out. The entitlement. I would never babysit ever after the way she acted and what she said. The disrespect because sis didn't get her way. She shouldn't have had a kid if she can't afford one. Commenter 3. You're not just sitting there. You're working. I wouldn't want a distracted person watching my child. You can't do both. So your sister wants you to risk your job, your new career, in fact, to watch her kid when you have no experience watching an infant. This situation would be awful for everyone. You and the baby, especially. Commenter 4. How is it acting like a child when you have a job and responsibilities? If they have an issue with it, let them babysit. Tell your parents to either step up or shut up, and anybody else that has a problem with it. Your job is just as important as theirs, and you have to survive too. Just because you're related doesn't entitle them to your time. Tell them who's gonna pay my bills, and anybody that has a problem tell them I'm a grown adult and I don't need to answer to anybody, and to grow up they should have thought about the consequences of having a child before actually having one. If they couldn't afford a babysitter or childcare, they shouldn't have had a child. Update. Since telling my sister I couldn't babysit her 3-month-old during work hours, things blown up. My sister won't talk to me, and my parents keep calling me selfish. My mom keeps saying I'm just sitting at home and should help for a few months because that's what family does. I tried explaining that I'm still new at my job, under pressure, and terrified of messing up. Watching a newborn while juggling meetings and deadlines isn't just hard, it's impossible. I even offered to help in other ways, like on weekends or helping them find affordable childcare, but that didn't matter. It feels like unless I say yes to exactly what they want, I'm the bad. Now I'm getting guilt-tripped daily, and it's exhausting. I love my niece, but I didn't choose to be a parent. I'm doing my best to build a life, and I'm scared this could derail everything. I still feel bad, but I don't think I was wrong to say no. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. If it's that easy, your sister can get a WFH job and watch her own baby while she works. But the reason she isn't doing that is that looking after a baby is a full-time job in itself. I think this is a situation where the only way to avoid getting bullied is to remember that your phone has a block function. You've set a clear boundary, and the only way to enforce it is to limit your contact with your family until they get the point. Tell them when you will be available to help out, and then literally don't be available during your work or recharging self-care times. Your sister and her partner had an obligation to make sure they were competent and capable to support a child before choosing to have one. That they chose not to is no fault of yours and not your mess to fix. There are plenty of cultures where grandparents baby where to work whilst looking after new grandkids. Perhaps your parents' money should go where their mouths are. Reply. Thank you, this really helped me feel more confident about setting my boundaries. You're right, it's not my responsibility to fix their choices. Commenter 2, the baby is not your responsibility. You have a job which you won't be able to do successfully if you are also looking after a baby. Your sister chose to have a baby, she's now got to live with that decision. Reply, thank you. I really needed to hear this. It's not easy when your own family tries to guilt-trip you. Commenter 3, tell your sister to take her baby to work and see how well she manages to do her job with a screaming, hungry newborn. When she tells you she can't take the baby, tell her she should get a fecking nanny, like everyone else in the world. This is not your baby. Stand your ground and don't give in to pressure. Reply, I like the idea of her figuring it out with the baby in tow, might give her a new perspective. I'm just worried she'll double down and guilt me more. Maybe I'll suggest the nanny idea and see how she reacts. Commenter 4, Nor. Your family is way out of line with this. Working from home is just that, working. They wouldn't be demanding this if you worked in an office building somewhere. Your sister decided to have a baby. She had many months to plan for childcare and failed to do so. It isn't your responsibility to make up for her bad planning. Since your mother has such strong opinions, she should be volunteering to help with the baby. This isn't your responsibility. Don't let them guilt-trip you. Stories number 12. Aita for booking my own Airbnb so I don't have to sleep on a couch for 6 nights. My immediate and extended family have booked a vacation for later in the summer. My aunt who found this place knew the owner and they got a great deal. My aunt initially said there are 6 bedrooms, 1 room for her and her husband, my uncle, 1 room for my parents, 1 room for my cousin and her husband, 1 room for my other cousin and his wife, and 1 room for their kids are both under 10. The last bedroom, you may wonder, is where my aunt made an innocent mistake in miscounting. There are only 5 bedrooms. They told me that my boyfriend and I will have to sleep on a pull-out couch. I told my parents I would rather not sleep on a couch even if it does pull out. I also don't want to make my boyfriend sleep on the couch with me either for his own privacy. It's in the living room, which is in the middle of everything. I would rather not be woken to people starting their day, and I would rather not have to change in the bathroom each and every time or even leave all my stuff in the living room as well. I don't want to change in my parents' room either because I know I would probably rush so that they can have their own privacy. I don't want to put my luggage in anyone else's room and fill their room with my clutter. Same goes for my boyfriend, I don't want to make him do all that either. My family has never had this big of a vacation all together in such a long time. I would love to be involved and whatnot, but I said I would rather not go if I can't have a room to myself, or I'll book my own place nearby and I will pay for my part for the main house everyone is in regardless. My mom refused both options as I will ruin the trip if I don't stay under the same roof. If I get my own place to stay, it would solely be to sleep. I plan to be with my family at all other times and events. I don't care about the price of only getting an Airbnb just to sleep. I want my privacy. Haven't mentioned it to my cousins or anyone else yet that I'm considering getting my own place as close as possible, though. Stories number 13. I told my daughter she's not getting a birthday party this year and I meant it. I've never done anything like this before. I've always been the soft one. The parent who bends, who gives second, and third and fourth chances. But this year, something shifted. My daughter has always had a flair for the dramatic, and she's headstrong, which honestly I love about her. But lately, it's crossed into something else, lying talking back, zero accountability. She's 13, and I know that's the age where the attitude starts, but I'm also a mom, and I know when something's more than just teen angst. About a month ago, she skipped class. Not just once, 4 times in 1 week. And then she lied to my face about it. I only found out because the school called, and even when I confronted her, she doubled down. Said the school must be wrong. Said I never listened to her. Said it's my fault she can't breathe at home. I felt like I'd been slapped. I cried in the laundry room for an hour that night, not because I was mad, but because I felt like I was losing her. But I also knew I needed to stop parenting out of fear of her pulling away, fear of being the mean mom, fear of making her hate me. So I sat her down that weekend. I told her she wasn't getting a party this year. No cake, no balloons, no dinner out with friends. I would still give her a card and tell her I love her, but I wasn't celebrating the way I normally would. I told her birthdays are not just about getting older, they're about reflecting on how we've grown. And she hadn't grown this year, not in the ways that matter. She was furious, slammed the door, didn't speak to me for 2 days. I cried again, quietly this time, in the car. Her birthday was last week. I gave her a small box with a letter inside. In it, I told her that I love her more than anything. That this wasn't punishment, it was consequence. That I will always fight for the version of her that I know is in there, kind, strong, honest, good. She hasn't said much since, but yesterday, she made dinner without being asked. Cleaned up after herself. Left a note on the fridge that said, "Thanks for still loving me even when I mess up. I'll do better. I promise." I'm still not sure if I did the right thing. Parenting feels like fumbling in the dark, trying not to trip over your own heart. But for the first time in a while, I feel like I stood up for both of us. And maybe that's the kind of love she needed most right now. Stories number 14. I'm ridiculously attracted to our neighbor, I have no intention to cheat. Feeling so much guilt. I am somehow happily married. We have 2 children together and I have a stepdaughter, and I'm all around quite satisfied with my love, and I would never want to risk throwing everything that I have away. My husband betrayed me in many ways in the past, but I have forgiven him and we are relatively good. This is not the first time I have had an intense crush while in a serious committed relationship. I've just always distanced myself from whoever it was as much as I could. The problem is that this neighbor lives right next to our home. I see him every other day minimum. We get along really well. His long-term partner is lovely and their son is often at our place. He's very handsome. I've always known he was, but I was never this intensely attracted to him. The only difference is that we have been chatting a lot more than usual and that he has started sending me messages, completely innocent, related to kid-friendly activities in the neighborhood, markets, etc. I guess I'm just looking for advice or anecdotes from people to tell me this is fine and will pass in time. Comments. Commenter 1. You can do what you already know you need to do, or you can continue down the path you already suspect will lead to infidelity. If you choose to do the right thing, distance yourself. Shut down the texting, simply stop responding, and avoid and minimize conversation. It's up to you. Commenter 2. I completely agree with this. OP, you're already self-aware enough to recognize the risk, and that's a huge first step. Crushes can feel intense, but they do fade when you don't feed them. Since distancing has worked for you in the past, trust that instinct now, even if it's harder with a neighbor. Maybe mute or archive the texts for a while, no need to make it awkward, just slow down replies, and keep interactions brief and kid-focused when you see him. Guilt is a sign you care about your marriage, and that's worth honoring. You've got this. Reply, you're sweet, thank you. I probed during this dinner and asked him what he would want me to do in a hypothetical scenario if I had an intense crush on a coworker, and he said he'd want me to tell him if it's something that persisted because it's a sign something was wrong with us, and in my case, a sign he hadn't done enough to make things right. So I guess I'll see after limiting our interactions. I'll tell him if it persists. Commenter 3. Does your husband know he is texting you? Doesn't matter if innocent. Commenter 4. Honestly, it's easy, just transition to always replying in a group chat. He sends you kids' activities in the group chat with him, his wife, and your husband. My husband and I have an unspoken rule of always group chat. Eventually people get the hint or just see it there on the top of their texts. Reply, that's not a bad idea, honestly. Thank you. Update. I actively avoided said neighbor during the week, put everyone in a group chat. He was still sending me messages, again, nothing nefarious, same innocent topics, but I stopped answering. He came by to ask me if everything was alright yesterday and if he did something wrong, and I realized I just felt fine, lol. I'm not attracted to him anymore. I still think he's very handsome because I have eyes, but I have no attraction to him whatsoever all of a sudden. He didn't even do anything really. I just feel the same way I used to before, so this intense crush lasted a whole 2 weeks. Very glad I did not tell my husband or do any of the extreme advice given to me by so many people in my first thread that would have ruined what is otherwise a nice relationship with very lovely people. ETA, some of you are extremely bizarre. No, I will not be sending you pictures of me, ask me to in chats and I'm blocking you. Try to flirt with me via chat and I'm blocking you. Send me pictures of you in chats and I'm blocking you. Stop being weird. Comments. Commenter 1. Are you tracking your cycle? Not just when your period starts, but the entire cycle. Use an app and log when you feel strong emotions, and see if you start noticing recurring trends. The fact that your crush started and stopped so quickly me think it's related to your cycle. Reply, I'm 6 months postpartum and my cycle has not resumed yet since I'm breastfeeding. I could totally see it being an hormonal thing though. I said it in my previous post, but I know for sure it's not the fact he's handsome that triggered the attraction because I had known him for 1.5 years and the crush was very sudden. Commenter 2. Oh, it's probably very much hormonal, too. Right around 6 months, currently both 15M postpartum and 5M pregnant, I felt like an abundance of myself came back, like I suddenly felt out of the trenches and so much more in tune with life. I think I commented something about it being okay to find people attractive, and it can still be just an innocent, wholesome thing, and got downvoted on your last post. People can get very up in arms about such things on Reddit, but you truly never seemed even remotely on the brink of cheating, lol. The thing is, I would probably just tell my husband and he'd be like, oh, in a completely silly way, agree that the neighbor is handsome, and we'd both understand on a deep level that nothing unwholesome would ever actually occur. You sound like you've got your ducks in a row, and also now you've successfully navigated it and don't have to worry. Commenter 3. He came by to ask me if everything was alright yesterday and if he did something wrong. That is kind of an odd response to having one-on-one texting transferred to a group chat. You might not have been the only one with a case of limerence. Reply, he used to chat with me while I was out gardening or chilling in our garden and I straight up stopped. I started gardening really early in the morning, but I didn't hang out in the patio anymore because our patios are right next to each other, and when the weather is nice, he works sitting at theirs. Some further details on the husband's actions. OOP specifies this was not an affair, but a sperm donation. Anyone harassing the OOP will be banned. Reply, my husband had a child between our oldest and my 6 months old with someone else. Commenter 4. And you had another kid with him after his affair, baby? Reply, I found out when I was 8 months pregnant. I didn't ask for judgment. Please keep it to yourself. I don't need to deal with her because he isn't legally recognized as the father of the child, at her request. And she's not really a mistress. I don't want to keep expanding on this. Commenter 5. Not to keep bothering you, but just know that in this day and age, legal means nothing. That child will eventually contact your husband. Even if it's just for medical info, answers, etc. And your other kids will find out in this day and age of genealogy if you don't tell them yourself. I have an elderly relative who just found out he has a daughter my age due to this. Just letting you know, not to scare you but to prepare you. This will never truly go away. So many parents shield their kids from the mistakes of the other, and it only hurts them in the long run. I really wish my mom had told me the truth about all the crummy things my dad did growing up sooner. Yeah, eventually, others told me I figured it out in my own, and he's a better man now, but growing up knowing the truth would have been far better for me. Reply, I'm not bothered by the child contacting him, that's the child's right. My children will know when they are old enough to understand. They are now both under 2, so we're not there yet. It's a complicated situation, and like I said, I don't want to expand on this now. Stories number 15. My F30 friend's stepmom and stepbrother tried to get my daughter deported so I would date him. I originally posted about this a while back, but my original post was more of a lengthy rant and I was a little too emotional at the time, plus the original title was misleading, as I meant to say stepmother and not mother. That said, this time I'm going to try again to better articulate myself, so here is the full story. For those who read my first post, this will also serve as the update, and sorry in advance for being long. Also, trigger warning as there is violence mentioned in this story. I, F30, am a single mom to a mixed-race 3-year-old daughter. I'm white, but my daughter's father is a New Zealand Maori, the indigenous people of New Zealand. I have a close friend from college who I will call Kate, who really is a cool and genuinely nice person, but her stepmom, Pam, and stepbrother, Kyle, are toxic, entitled people. Pam is unemployed, used to work at an Amazon warehouse but is now living on disability. Kate's dad, who I will call Kenny, works as a truck driver, and Kyle is also unemployed. As to my understanding, he's never been able to hold a job for long. Also, while Kate and her family are originally from West Virginia, they moved to Pennsylvania about some time ago. On July last year, I held an engagement party for my friend Kate and her fiancé Jack at my family's vacation home in the Catskills, as they were supposed to get married in December last year. Up until then, I didn't really talk to Kate's stepmom or stepbrother. I don't know them, but apparently, they've been following me, my family and friends on Instagram and Facebook. According to Kate, Pam is apparently envious of the photos and stories me and our friends, post of us traveling, going out to restaurants, photos of us at parties or networking events, going on family boating trips, etc. For this reason, Pam was demanding that she and her son be invited to the engagement party so she could socialize with our friends, my family, as well as colleagues from the museum and university, as Pam and Kyle had no social life or friends of their own. Kate and I relented and allowed them to come, as we didn't want them hassling Kate about this later on. Also, a little more background about Kyle. Kate did also go on to talk about how Pam pretty much coddled Kyle, that he was homeschooled sometime during grade school, as Pam didn't like the fact the school disciplined him for bullying and other antisocial behavior, that Pam got mad at the school when they raised concerns that Kyle may have mental health issues and sexist beliefs, that he was never told off by Pam but rather enabled by her, and Pam wouldn't let Kenny discipline Kyle for anything he did, but apparently Pam could discipline Kate for the most minor infractions. That said, Kyle grew up coming to expect to be given anything and everything he wants, as well as never having had to face any real consequences for his actions. For this reason, Kyle has no real friends, has no social skills and no respect for personal boundaries. At the party, as mentioned in my previous post, Kyle and Pam seemed out of place. Pam kept trying to talk up Kyle to my female friends at the party. Kyle just seemed awkward or uncomfortable the whole time, and they couldn't hold conversations with the other guests. Later Kyle started flirting with me. I initially tried to be polite, keeping my answers to his questions short, but after Kyle called my daughter a half-breed, saying that I should get rid of her so I could go out with him, I felt so disgusted and angry with him that I snapped, shouting at him and his mom to get out of my family's house. Pam got mad at me, accusing me of disrespecting her son, which I don't deny, demanding I apologize to her son, Pam screaming at the other guests who were now also chastising them, Pam and Kyle, etc. I in turn called Pam and Kyle out for being racist, classless, misogynists, with the two of them leaving after realizing that nobody was supporting them, and Rachel calling being on the phone with the sheriff's office. Pam and Kyle then started sending me and Kate messages, angrily expressing how they felt humiliated, Pam calling me and my guests, most of whom were friends and colleagues from the museum and university, were snobs, as she felt we thought that we were too good for them, Pam demanding I apologize to them, Pam and Kyle demanding I go out on a date with Kyle to give him a chance, and other things. I ended up just blocking Pam but neglected to also block Kyle. Fast forward to late March, ICE came over to our family's home in the Upper East Side, since apparently Pam and Kyle reported my daughter as an illegal immigrant, despite my daughter being a U.S. citizen, born in Boston, and me being her mother. I then called my grandpa's law firm, who sent over a couple of lawyers. The lawyers dealt with the ICE agents, while I showed documents, etc. Anyway, Kate told me that Pam and Kyle tried to get my daughter deported, because they didn't want a non-white person in their family. Pam wanted me to get with her son, and they hoped that this would somehow make me willing to go out with Kyle. Instead, my family and I decided we were going to take them to court. Our lawyers reported Pam and Kyle to the Inspector General's office for their fraudulent report. Note, from what I understood, by filing a fraudulent report to ICE, Pam and Kyle did would be a federal offense under 18 U.S.C. Sector 1001, but as to whether DHS pursues them is up to them. If DHS investigates Pam and Kyle, that would be separate from our family's case against them. Kate and her fiancé Jack did initially plan to go NC with Pam and Kyle, but that proved to be impossible as Kate and her dad are trying to mend their relationship. Kenny was away from home a lot due to being on the road, and even when he was at home, he didn't want to get involved with what he called family drama, and just told Kate to do whatever Pam demanded of her in order to keep the peace in their family. This did cause a long strain in her relationship with her dad, but he's now genuinely trying to mend his relationship with Kate, trying to set boundaries with Pam. But that said, it would be nearly impossible for Kate to go NC with Pam or Kyle, without also going NC with her father. I understood Kate's situation and accepted her decision to only remain low contact with Pam and Kyle, as Kate did also promise to not only not mention anything about me to Pam or Kyle but also keep me informed on anything they may be doing. A few days after Isa's visit, Kyle contacted me again, this time from a different number, angry that my daughter wasn't deported, demanding I put her up for adoption or give her to her birth father, my ex, reiterating that they don't want a mixed kid in their family and that he wanted my daughter out of the picture before we could get together. Feeling too tired to deal with it, I just told Kyle that any communication between us and him or his mother would need to be done via our lawyers going forward, before hanging up on him. From different numbers, Pam and Kyle then tried calling me multiple times again, leaving voice messages which frankly sound unhinged and incoherent but boiled down to them demanding I talk to them, Pam saying I'm not being a good daughter-in-law, and other words to that effect. Kate then contacted me, warning me that Pam and Kyle are freaking out, Pam ranting that she can't afford to be taken to court again as she's living on welfare, Kyle is unemployed, Kyle being obsessed with me, and Pam wanting to give her son the perfect wife, who would take care of them. Additionally, Kenny is frustrated and angry with Pam and Kyle's shenanigans, with Kenny telling them to just drop it and to leave me alone, but they're not listening to him. Our lawyers have been in contact with Pam's lawyer, Rob, who is also Pam's older brother, with Rob wanting to negotiate a settlement before things go to court. Because of this, our lawyers organized a meeting at my grandpa's LIC office. At the meeting, me, my dad and the two lawyers assigned to me, met with Rob, Pam and Kyle. To his credit, Rob was courteous, professional and does seem like a genuinely reasonable person. However, as our lawyers started discussing the settlement, Pam interjected, demanding that I drop the lawsuit, saying things along the lines of, "You're going to be my son's wife, so you better start acting like it." Her saying that I should be grateful that her son is into me, as not many guys are going for single moms like you. Keep in mind Pam herself was a single mom before she married Kate's dad. Pam saying her son and I will give her a grandchild who, as she says, looks like us, and your immigrant daughter, Pam referring to my daughter, is not like us, with Pam then turning to my dad and saying, "Our families should be one, and we are like you." Rob sat there uncomfortably, clearly embarrassed and ashamed of her sister's behavior as he tried to get Pam to shut up. My dad then told them that we are nothing alike, we do not share their views, we do not share the same values, my daughter is his, my dad's, granddaughter, and that we have nothing in common with them. My lawyer then reminded them that the point of this meeting was to discuss a settlement and that they're not exactly in any position to make demands. Pam, ignoring this, went on her rant saying it was unfair that she spent the better half of her life working minimum wage jobs before going on disability, while my family wastes nice things like our family Christmas parties, boat trips, vacations and good schools on my immigrant daughter, as Pam called my child. Pam continued talking about how she and Kyle deserve these things more than my daughter does, Pam saying it's unfair that my family and I flaunt lives on social media but not invite Pam or her son to join us, despite us inviting Kate, who again, is a close friend of mine, and that her kind of people, referring to my daughter again, have no place in her idea of America. Our lawyers then just asked Pam and Kyle, if you're not here to discuss a settlement, then what exactly are you hoping to gain from this meeting? Kyle then spoke up, saying that he demands that my family drop our lawsuit and that I give in to his demand to give my daughter away and agree to go out with him. In exchange, he says that he will allow me to keep on working but that my money needs to go to him as he will control our finances, with Kyle saying, "I am going to be the man of the house, so you better start listening to what I tell you." I just replied saying, "What house? You live in an apartment with your mom." Kyle then got up and tried to walk towards me, but Rob had to hold him back as my dad and one of my lawyers got between me and Kyle. My other lawyer then left the conference room to call for security as Pam started screaming and shouting her own lawyer brother Rob for trying to hold back Kyle. A couple minutes later, security arrived and tried to escort Pam and Kyle out of the office. However, as they were doing this, Kyle then broke free and tried running back towards the conference room we were in but was being held back by office staff. Kyle then got into a fist fight with the two security guards and some of the office staff who tried to restrain him, with Kyle finding himself in a corner, with his fists up, his face red and incoherently screaming at the security and staff surrounding him. Seeing this, I instructed the office receptionist to call 911. Seeing that the receptionist was on the phone, Pam then tried grabbing the phone from her as I held Pam back, with Pam shouting racist slurs at the receptionist. Realizing that the cops were on their way, Pam then grabbed Kyle as they ran towards the elevator, fleeing the building before the cops arrived. After they left and the police arrived, we gave our statements to the police. The injured security and office staff indicated that they wanted to press charges against Pam and Kyle. We then spoke with Rob, who did apologize to us for their actions, with him going on to say that he only agreed to take their case because they're family. We also moved to file a restraining order against Pam and Kyle, with all communication between to be done via our lawyers. Additionally, as a result of Kyle assaulting security and staff in my grandpa's firm, they decided to pursue their own case against Kyle and Pam as well. Even after the incident at the office, Kyle and Pam continued to send me and my dad messages from different phone numbers and fake Facebook accounts, with Pam accusing me of ruining their future, again demanding we drop the lawsuit, demanding that we somehow get the police off of Kyle's back, Pam accusing me of ruining Kyle's life, accusing my family of being selfish, Kyle threatening to put me in my place, etc. As per our lawyer's advice, we did not respond to their messages or engage with them, but rather just recorded them and forwarded it to our lawyers for documentation. In order to decompress from the stress caused by Pam and Kyle, I got some time off work and spent a week down in Mexico to just relax a little. After returning to the States, I held a dinner get-together with my friends at this restaurant in Park Avenue, where Kate again apologized for all the trouble her stepmom and stepbrother have been putting me through, as I assured her that I don't blame her for any of this. Kate also let me know that she, her dad and Rob have been urging Pam to just agree to a settlement, as they can't afford a lengthier court battle, coupled with all the other debts and bills Pam and Kyle already have, and Kenny has been pretty much paying for all their legal bills, draining his savings. Last week, my lawyers met with Pam and Kyle's lawyer Rob again, who informed us that Pam and her husband Kate's dad Kenny decided to just pay a settlement in order to end this case. Evidently, in addition to my case against Pam and Kyle, they're still dealing with the still separate lawsuit from my grandpa's firm. Kyle has decided to go into hiding as he knows we reported him to the police for what he did in the office. Pam and Kyle have other debts they haven't been paying, and Pam is now even more miserable than before. Because of this, Kenny decided he'd use the remainder of his savings to pay me a settlement, as they need to use whatever other loans and remaining family savings they still have to pay their other debts and Pam's other legal bills. Kate has also repeatedly refused to help her stepmom or stepbrother, as she and her fiancé Jack have their own life, their own bills to pay, and are saving not only for their wedding later this year but also to move to Chicago by sometime next year. Also, just a side note, Kate and Jack were supposed to get married on December last year, but due to Jack's injury and their subsequent medical bills, it was postponed until September this year. Stories number 16. Aita for ruining Mother's Day by leaving the house and refusing to attend my MIL's Mother's Day dinner. My husband, 29M, and I, 28F, have been together since high school and married shortly after college. We have a 2-year-old daughter. I work from home full-time, and he works a 9-to-5 office job. Early in our marriage, we agreed that I would handle most of the household responsibilities, including cooking, since my schedule is more flexible. Over the past year or so, I've really gotten into budget-friendly cooking. I follow people who make creative, nutritious meals using ingredients from places like Dollar Tree and Aldi. It's been a relief for me since I get to stay within budget when our finances are tighter without having us eat the same thing over and over again. My husband has eaten everything I've made and complimented it regularly, always going back for seconds and saying how good it was. He even half-joked once that he didn't care where it came from unless I was dumpster diving for it. A few days ago, my MIL had went over to our house to just drop off some toys she gotten for our daughter, but while there, she apparently went through some of the receipts I keep in one of the kitchen drawers for budgeting purposes. A decent few of these receipts were from places like the dollar store. Later, she confronted my husband, expressing her disapproval of where I shop for groceries. She implied that feeding our daughter such cheap food was borderline neglectful, suggesting that it wasn't how a proper mother should care for her child. The day before Mother's Day, my husband offered to cook to give me a break, and while I appreciated it, something felt off. He was clanking pans, slamming drawers, and getting visibly irritated while cooking. When I asked if he was okay, he finally told what happened with his mom, and that he was starting to see her point. He said he felt like I'd been hiding where the food came from, and accused me of being deceitful. I reminded him that he literally told me not to tell him unless it was dumpster food, and that he's been eating and praising everything I made for months. But suddenly now, he says he's embarrassed, and he had even questioned whether it's right for our daughter to be raised on this kind of food. I felt so hurt and insulted. I told him if he really thinks I'm failing our family by putting food on the table that's affordable and homemade, then he can go ahead and cook for himself. I packed a bag, grabbed our daughter, and went to stay with my sister and BL for a little bit to cool off. We were supposed to go to his mother's house for a Mother's Day dinner, but after our argument, I decided not to attend and just spent the time with my sister, BL, and daughter. Now, he's texting me, saying I blew everything way out of proportion and ruined Mother's Day while demanding that I come home. His mother also called, suggesting that I need to reflect on the kind of household I'm creating and whether I want our daughter to grow up thinking that bare minimum living is acceptable. I feel like I've been doing my best to provide for my family, both emotionally, physically, and financially, and now I'm being attacked for it. Stories number 17. Aita for telling my parents I am willing to sell them my forgiveness. My parents expected me to be independent the minute I turned 18. They gave me the money they had saved up for my education and they started charging me rent. I was lucky enough to have a partial scholarship and I found a job in the city my university was in, so I moved there before the school year began. With my parents' money, my scholarship, and my wages I was able to scrape by. I rarely if ever spoke with my parents. I was kind of busy. I guess they decided that they didn't want that kind of relationship with my younger siblings because they were not presented with the same option. They both lived at home all through university and even afterwards. I am 34 now with a decent job and a great girlfriend whom I will be marrying this summer. I sent my parents and siblings an invitation. They called me to ask why they were not involved in the wedding. I responded that they hadn't really been part of my life in 16 years and that I was being nice by inviting them. They said that they acknowledged that they made mistakes when I was young, bet that it was in the past and that I should get over it. Against my fiancé's advice I sent them an itemized bill for everything I paid for myself that they freely gave my brother and sister. I said if they wanted to be a part of my life they had to ante up. They said that they cannot afford that because they are in debt still from helping my siblings out. I laughed at that and said I hoped that I would see them at the wedding and hung up. My family are all getting a hold of me to let me know how much I'm hurting my parents. The thing is that I don't want their money. And I don't want anything from them at all other than their attendance at my wedding. If they can't do that then I'm fine with our yearly phone call. Comments. Commenter 1. Maybe the itemized bill was a bit much but I imagine it was cathartic for you. Your parents haven't been around in a decade and a half. They have a lot of nerve to ask to be involved. Not being involved in your wedding is just reaping what they sowed. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding. Commenter 2. Yeah, it is an move in a vacuum, but this is more about catharsis and appropriate response. I filed this away as one of those really good ideas for dealing with crazy people. Commenter 3. I'm tired of this sub's black and white view of being an asshole. Sometimes it's perfectly reasonable to be an asshole. Sending an itemized bill is one of those times. Commenter 4. They said that they cannot afford that because they are in debt still from helping my siblings out. I'm sorry, what? Then why did they do it in the first place? NTA op, perhaps siblings can pay back now. Commenter 5. If their perceived choice was going into debt to support their adult kids or lose almost all contact with them like OP, it's not surprising they picked debt. Of course the reality is the choice was a bit less extreme, let them live at home rent-free and pay what they could without going into debt. Update. I posted a couple of years ago about my parents being upset that I didn't make them a bigger part of my wedding. This was after a decade and a half of us barely speaking and all of us being okay with the state of our relationship. They did end up coming to the wedding and then going away afterwards. Which was great and exactly what I wanted from them. My younger sister just got married and I was invited. I don't mind my sister, so my wife and I made a trip of it with my wife's mom. That way we had child care for our son. And we could have be a nice visit to my hometown, which I rarely visit. It was a child-free wedding, which was fine by us. However, my wife did still need to take a couple of breaks to pump. We had a cooler for the milk so it wouldn't go to waste, and this caused another shit show. My parents were upset that I didn't bring my son to the wedding. A child-free wedding they were helping to pay for. I just laughed and said we could get together before we went home. But this wasn't good enough. They said we had to bring him to the gift opening the next day. Pass. We had plans. I told them this and they were pissed that we were just coming to the wedding and then not visiting. We do not have that kind of relationship. They have only seen my son once since he was born. They have gone on 3 overseas vacations in that time. They both earn good money and have time to travel. They just choose to spend their time and money in other ways than seeing him. I am not sure how to convey to them that we are related but not really all that close anymore. I love them and such, but in an obligatory way. They are my parents. Anyways, that's about it. They seem to have forgotten my facetious offer to sell them my forgiveness. Oh yeah, my brother still lives at home. Rent-free. He has a full-time job as a teacher. Comments. Commenter 1. Weren't they in debt? If they wanted to see your child they would. You don't owe them anything. Reply. They said they were. I have not forbidden them from seeing the boy. Commenter 2. So they paid for your sister's wedding. I bet they didn't pay a cent for yours. Looks like haven't changed in 20 years, you can't choose your family I suppose. Commenter 3. Don't be shocked to find that you, and not your siblings or their own savings, are their retirement plan. Reply. That's not going to happen. Commenter 4. After an extremely tempestuous relationship with my folks for the last 20 years, the only lever I care to pull anymore is the amount of time between chances to see me and their only grandson. It's like electrocuting the dinosaurs at Jurassic Park. They learn a little. For a while. Then they go back to old habits. Then they get the juice again. Couple of years between visits. Last time his dad tried to assault me for standing up to him insulting my wife because he was drunk. After a while the urge to reconnect really dims down and it just becomes, play nice or kick rocks. You sound like you've got your head screwed on, man. Hope it doesn't harm your peace any. Stories number 18. I don't care if he has ADHD. This is a rant, but I'm hoping people with ADHD can help me navigate these feelings. My husband and I have been together 17 years. He is in the process of seeking out a diagnosis. I have always supported his feeling like he didn't need a label unless he felt that it was causing issues in his life and he wanted professional help. 8 months ago we welcomed our second baby, and it's like everything crumbled. His work started getting more demanding, and having 2 kids is expensive, so I appreciate he is stressed. But he started forgetting things. No, he started forgetting me. He has started looking into getting a diagnosis to help him manage his responsibilities and how he copes with getting overwhelmed and struggling to stay on task, and I sincerely hope that helps him. But I don't care whether he has ADHD. I don't care the work is crazy and the baby disrupts his sleep. I care that he forgot our wedding anniversary. Instead of spicy food and mocktails, for my birthday 4 weeks postpartum, we invited people over to try out our new pizza oven. I cleaned the house before and after. I messed up baking a birthday cake for our toddler. He laughed at me, said he'd do it, didn't follow instructions and made a worse one. Promised to buy a cake the next day and didn't. He invited his entire family to a party at our house for our toddler, 8 weeks after having baby number 2, didn't tell me until 2 days before, and then went and did a sporting event all morning day of and was stressed when I made him shower immediately after getting home so he could go buy a party cake. Got Christmas gifts for his parents, and one each for me and our toddler. Nothing for the new baby, nor his 5 siblings and their partners and their kids, nor my many siblings with partners or kids. I had to do all that in a rush when I noticed there wasn't anything for them. Over 20 people, he had a cold, and felt too ill to do it, and then had forgotten. I told him I was overwhelmed and struggling. He said he would try to do better, and decided to seek out an ADHD diagnosis. Completely forgot about Valentine's, which we don't really celebrate, but I usually get him a little something, a book etc., to show I'm still thinking of him. He had another cold and was too poorly to think about that. I had emergency therapy and doctor's appointments because I was so burnt out I was dreaming about killing myself. I got meds, talked it through, told my husband flat out that I can't do any more and I need him to be better. He said he understood. Was too ill, with another cold on Mother's Day for me to have the day to myself, as asked, and then so ill that I only got 2 hours of alone time before rushing home because he was acting so poorly I didn't really trust him to tend to the baby properly. That's on me, I guess. I expect a lot of illness with a toddler, but he does not handle it well and I should have just let him suffer through another few hours. Explained that, to him, our relationship needed more sex, and I wasn't making time for intimacy, and that having sex without indulging in certain kinks was bad sex that he didn't enjoy and made him feel like I didn't love him. Warned me the day before the anniversary of our relationship, we always celebrate this day, that we were flat broke and he hadn't bought me anything. Whilst putting the flowers I bought him in a vase and reading the card. Day of, I asked for 1 hour extra sleep, until 7:45 a.m., and he came upstairs 40 minutes in to wake me up for pancakes, that he has been making for himself twice a week for months. It's not a special thing for me. And then got snippy because I simply told him that I was up a lot with the baby, I wanted 1 full hour and I had set an alarm. I asked him to arrange a day out, nothing grand or expensive, just time together. He kept trying to get me to choose where we went. Arranged for the kids to go to relatives and kept asking me what I would like to do. Asked me over and over if we should pack a blanket, obvious hint he wanted to go have sex somewhere, but I'm not a teenager anymore and have my own damn bed. We get there and he wants me to decide if we get drinks or go look at this. Spent the whole day apologizing for forgetting, but 2 days later he hasn't got me a little treat, a card, picked some free flowers, nothing. ADHD doesn't excuse this. I love him. And he's been fantastic up until now. Our baby is 8 months old, there's a lot going on, but I have never felt so unappreciated, so unloved. I'm ending maternity leave soon, and I worry that all this time I've been home, doing 99% of all the housework and cooking because he's overworked. I can't do that and work full time, so is he going to forget me even more? Stories number 19. Aita for not letting my parents join us for Mother's Day so they could meet and get to know my kids. I, 39M, have 4 children with my wife, 37F. My wife nor my kids have ever met my parents or my siblings. I have been no contact for about 20 years now, and while that was technically broken by my parents reaching out and me responding. I sent 3 replies to their messages and that was it. So this was by no means intended to be a return to contact. However, they wanted a relationship with me and with my children. And they asked if we could spend Mother's Day together. They offered to host or come to mine and my wife's house if we didn't want to travel with the kids. I said no, but they held on to the hope or expectation that I would say yes. I did not. They were contacting me all day yesterday until I went and blocked them. A relative had passed on my contact info to them and I spoke to the same relative last night and she came down hard on me for denying the chance for a reunion and for refusing to let them come meet my kids and get to know them. She said it's not thinking of my kids. I don't agree, but I'll explain background now and see if you agree with the relative and my parents. BG for those who need to know more info in order to give a verdict. I was born to younger parents. They were 19 and 20 when I was born. They were not good parents to me. I can't even say they were okay. They weren't very warm, weren't affectionate or caring, and I was made to feel like a burden. The reality was I existed in the same house as them, but they could ignore me for days at a time without saying a word to me. They didn't make sure I was eating and sleeping. It was only kinda common for them to make sure I made it to the bus stop. And that stopped once I was considered big enough to get myself out the door. Homework problem. Better go somewhere else for help or say fuck it and let the teacher yell. I learned how to forge their signatures on homework and stuff from school that needed a parent's signature because they weren't about to do it for me. I was 14 before they had more kids. And my siblings were kids they wanted. They turned into completely different people. They were loving parents who were far more involved, far more supportive and affectionate and caring. They did speak to me more after this shift in their personalities, but they did not step up as my parents. I still couldn't go to them with any problems. They didn't know or care if I ate or went to sleep at a good time. They still didn't involve themselves in my education. They never talked post-high school with me, and my guidance counselor tried to bring them in on the discussion, but their go-to excuse was they had 2 small children at home. There were no more days at a time of not speaking to me, but really they didn't have conversations with me. They'd say some things and occasionally I'd be asked a question about how things were going or whatever. And during all that I got to see them being parents to my siblings that they were never willing to be for me. Back then it hurt a lot, and for a few years after I went no contact it hurt too. My decision to go no contact happened as a result of me realizing I'd need to accept them as they are or go no contact, and I couldn't do the former. From what I can gather, the reason my parents reached out is because both of my siblings have stated they do not want children and one or both has been sterilized to prevent themselves having children, so my parents were depressed about it and learned from the relative who gave them my details that I had children. Stories number 20. I feel very confused. Is it possible I have been given someone else's DNA matches? I don't recognize any of these people. I think there may have been some mistake with my DNA processing somehow. I've recently done one of the tests and got my results back, but I don't recognize any of these people. I am 19 and it says I have 2 children, which is impossible. I've only ever had sex with one woman and she never got pregnant. And it says I have 2 cousins on there and neither of them are my cousins. I feel really confused and I'm not sure how to contact Ancestry so they can look into how I got someone else's DNA matches. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Those are parental matches. You should talk to your parents. Sounds as though you're adopted. Commenter 2. This must be very confusing and stressful for you. Keep us updated, OP. Take screenshots of all your matches and any public trees in case they start going anonymous in the future. I do think there is a chance your 2 parental matches took their test in hopes they might find you one day. Have you contacted any of your matches? Reply. No, I haven't contacted any of them because I thought they were wrong. I feel really deeply in shock and I genuinely don't know what I should do. Commenter 3. I can only imagine. I would probably have to take a deep breath, or 100, myself if this happened to me. Is this something you'd feel comfortable asking your parents' family about? Like adoption? In vitro? Any other combo that might explain why you would not be genetically linked to the people you know as your family? Reply. I don't know, I just don't understand it all. I'm going to go to my friend's house, I feel really weird. Update. I feel very confused. Is it possible I have been given someone else's DNA matches? I don't recognize any of these people. Hello everyone. A lot of people have been reaching out to me after my last post, so I thought it would be easier if I just made one post on here giving an update rather than multiple comments responding to individuals. It has been a really long week for me. This has been the hardest time of my life, and I know that just sounds stupid, but everything has really changed for me. I have had maybe 2 hours of sleep each night. I feel like I am really struggling. I don't want to sound like I'm whining, but I just feel so shaken by everything that's happened. I still can't believe that my parents aren't my real parents. You all sussed it out quick that I was reading the results wrong. JE and DP weren't my children, they are my biological parents. That feels not good to say, and I feel bad about that. I have never felt different from my parents, always thought I looked like my dad. I look back through my life and it just seems unreal. DP is my biological father, JE is my biological mother. My parents equals my adoptive parents. I know I should have gone to my parents first, I should have given them a chance to be honest with me. But I reached out to both DP and JE first instead. I was pretty simple with my message. Hello, not sure what is going on here. It says that we are matched as parent and child, do you know why? DP got back to me literally within minutes. He said he was so happy I decided to reach out and that he wasn't going to message me first in case I didn't want him to. He said he was going to contact JE and tell her I'm on Ancestry, if I was okay with that. I just asked if we could slow down. I said I didn't know what was happening because I always believed the people who raised me were my parents. He said, my parents' names, didn't tell you. He asked if we could speak over the phone after that. He called me, he explained a lot. When I was born he was only 15 years old, JE was also the same age. He said they wanted to keep me but both their families convinced them I would be better off being adopted. They were living in a small village and wanted everything kept as low as possible. My parents were family friends of JE's parents and they offered to have me. It was agreed between everyone and when I was born I was just handed over. I feel numb writing this. He said that he and JE wanted contact with me, but were told that it was better to just leave me. They said it was agreed I would be raised knowing I was adopted, and eventually after everyone in their families told them, they agreed that there would be no contact until I was 18. And that when I turned 18 I was to be given the full story of what happened and given a way to contact them. Every month my parents were meant to send a letter to JE's parents about me, just keeping them updated. And for a while they did, but pretty soon it stopped. When they asked about me they were just told to move on and leave it by their families. So they suspected that something may have been off but they didn't think I was never going to be told I was adopted at all. He said when Ancestry came out they both decided to do it just in case I couldn't get in contact with them any other way. He told me a lot more but honestly I feel drained just typing that all out. He asked me if he could pass my number on to JE and I said yes. I know this is selfish of me, but I asked him to not contact me again and asked JE not to contact me until next week. I just need some time first. He sounded upset but he agreed and didn't say anything to argue with me or anything. My parents are good people, good parents. I don't understand why they would do this to me. I haven't spoken to them about this yet. I don't know how I am going to. Because now I just feel alone. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I'm so sorry. I had an NPE experience and it also hit me hard. I didn't hardly leave my bedroom for 3 days and felt disassociated. It's been a few weeks now and I'm much better. I hope that gives you hope. It takes time for the shock to wear off. It sounds like your birth parents wanted you and want contact, which feels confusing I'm sure, but that should also feel great that you were wanted. I'm sure your parents who raised you thought they were doing the best thing for you. They probably didn't want you confused and wanted to preserve their bond with you. I don't think it ever gets easier telling someone they're adopted, so maybe they just kept putting it off and then didn't want to hurt you. Probably not the best choice, but it seems you were very loved by all parents involved. Just take some time to process and maybe tell your birth parents you're more comfortable with written communication for now instead of the phone. Sorry you're going through this. Reply. It just feels all unreal. I still can't quite understand it all. I haven't spoken to my parents properly since I found out. I just don't know how to face them. Commenter 2. I have been thinking of you since your post. Just wanted to send you a virtual hug. This week must have been very, very hard for you. You said you don't have anyone to talk to. Do you have access to any mental health care or counseling through your uni? Please contact them and see if there is anyone who can see you urgently. Sometimes it's good to go through things with a stranger first. I hate to think of you trying to deal with this on your own and feeling unable to go to your now adoptive parents as well. Reply. I just can't believe it all. I don't want to sound like I'm just moping, so I'm trying not to just be depressing to everyone here. I just feel very confused by it all even now. But life goes on. Sorry for if I'm annoying anyone by being too depressing. Commenter 3. Oh no, I didn't mean it like that at all. I just know it's one hell of a shock. I discovered I had a completely different grandfather who was a family friend. Thankfully everyone involved was dead, and that was bad enough having to tell my 70-year-old dad that surprise he had a new dad. If you are happy talking about it here, you carry on. I just don't like to think of someone dealing with something so big alone. Reply. No, sorry, I was just saying I know I'm being depressing here and I hope I'm not annoying anyone. I feel like people don't really want to hear me mope about my life. How long did it take for you to get over finding out? Commenter 4. Of course you don't annoy anyone. So many people share on here, because it's hard to talk about this in real life sometimes. I was really, really pissed off, not because it was someone else, but because it was someone I knew and really liked. I would have loved for him to have been openly my grandfather. And the stupid thing was my nan lived till she was 98, died when I was 42, and didn't say a word. And she was largely someone who never gave a shit about shocking people, so I don't know why she didn't tell me. I'm over it now. It's been a few years, it did take a little while. It is weird when you get a whole new family though. I get a lot of cousin DNA matches wondering who the hell we are. And then I have to explain over again that my grandparents had an affair in the 40s. I've not had a direct descendant match, not entirely sure what I'm going to say then. Update: I found out that I am adopted. I don't know how I'm ever going to forgive my parents. I found out that I'm adopted this week. I'm 19 years old. I never had any idea, no one ever told me or ever suggested I wasn't related to my parents. My parents don't know that I know I'm adopted. I haven't really spoken to them properly since I found out, and now I don't even know how I'm going to face them. Since finding out, I've had the opportunity to speak to my biological father over the phone, and he explained a lot. I was born when my bios were 15 years old. They were pressured by their families to give me up for adoption, and my parents were friends of my bio-maternal grandparents. I don't know how I'm going to describe anything I'm feeling. I've had less than 2 hours of sleep each night since I found out, and I've just been feeling like I am not even real. I am struggling so hard and I feel like I have no one. I have always felt like a failure to my parents, and now I'm not even their real son, and I am so scared that when they find out I know they won't want to be in my life anymore. I feel so broken. I've always thought I was so much like my dad. I thought I looked like him, and now I don't even know myself anymore. I don't know what to do. Stories number 21. My husband's childhood best friend asked me for a favor, then humiliated me in front of her family. I'm done being the bigger person. I've been sitting on this for a few days, trying to decide if I'm just being dramatic or if I've been letting too much slide for too long. So, I, 30F, have been happily married for a few years now. My husband, 31M, is honestly a gem, kind, patient, hilarious, loyal. Basically everything you'd want. Which, after having an ex cheat on me with his best friend, is kind of a big deal. That relationship wrecked me for a while, but I worked hard not to drag the wreckage into something new. And my husband? And thankfully, my husband's never given me a single reason to question him. Until now. Maybe. I do not know. My husband and I have a great relationship, and we're pretty social and often hang out with each other's friends. I get along with almost all of his group, and they've honestly made me feel welcome, except for her. His childhood best friend, let's call her C. C has always been cold to me. Not outright rude, just subtle enough to make me feel crazy for noticing. You know that kind of vibe? Every time we've been in the same room, she's managed to talk around me, not to me. I tried. I really did. I've smiled. Made conversation. Been nothing but warm, even when she's given me nothing to work with. She doesn't show up to group hangouts. But she'll invite him over. And he always tells me, to his credit. He never goes without mentioning it, and he's never weird or secretive about her. But it still rubs me the wrong way. I've tried being friendly, I've tried small talk, hell. I invited her to our birthdays, barbecues, engagement dinner, she bailed on all. She skipped our wedding too, and she only ever seems to reach out to him, usually when she's just been dumped and needs to talk. When I've brought it up, my husband says I'm overthinking it. That C is just a little odd socially. Maybe she is. Then, a few weeks ago, out of nowhere, she messaged me. She asked if I'd model for her project. Totally unexpected. And I was caught off guard enough to say yes. Part of me thought, maybe this is her trying to connect. Maybe this was her olive branch. I even felt a little hopeful. God, I was naive, so I agreed. My husband offered to come with me since he hadn't seen her in a while and thought it'd be fun to catch up after. When we got there, her family was also involved. And from the second I walked in, it was like stepping into some passive-aggressive Twilight Zone. Her mom and sister kept calling my husband our son-in-law. I laugh, awkwardly. Think I must have misheard. It only got worse. During the shoot, came more of the snarky comments. Jokes about the one that got away and some bonds never fade. Her mom, at one point, literally said, we always thought C would end up with him. But life has its detours, I guess. C always imagined walking down the aisle with him. And then, it's sweet of her to fill in, though. Oh come on. I wish I was exaggerating. And C just kept snapping pictures. Smiling. Saying nothing. No, hey, cut it out, no awkward laugh, no redirect. Nothing. My husband. Clearly uncomfortable. I watched him fidget through the whole thing, clear his throat a few times. He tried to change the subject or came near by me during the shooting. He didn't say much either. Just went kind of quiet. I stuck it out for an hour. Let her take her photos. Smiled, posed, whatever. But the whole time I felt like I was part of a social experiment, and everyone else was in on the joke but me. When we got in the car, he was silent for a while. Then finally said, "Sorry about all." That was weird, right? And honestly, I didn't even know what to say. Because yeah, it was weird. It was borderline disrespectful. And the fact that he was there, saw all of it, clearly felt it too, and still didn't step in or pull the plug. It makes me feel kind of alone in this. I'm just tired. Tired of pretending this woman is harmless or just awkward. She knows exactly what she's doing. Two don't want to start a huge fight. But I'm at the point where I don't want her in our lives. Not as a friend. Not as a ghost in the corner of our marriage. No more bending over backwards to be the cool wife. I'm not interested in earning points with someone who clearly doesn't want me around. Anyway. Thanks for letting me scream into the void for a minute. I really needed to get this out. Edit. Sorry guys, English is not my first, or even second, language. Sometimes it is harder to get my feelings across. Just to clarify a few things people were asking about, C is actually a photography major, and this shoot was part of her final project. I'm not a professional model or anything, but I've done some hobby modeling here and there, so when she asked if I'd help out, I thought it was a casual favor. Why at her house? She comes from a wealthy family and has a fully set up photo studio in their house, which is why the shoot happened there instead of at a regular studio. I honestly thought it'd just be her and the camera, not a full audience with drinks and commentary. Additional background, I grew up in a pretty emotionally abusive household, so I think I've gotten too used to passive-aggressive comments and just sort of freeze up. Maybe that's why I didn't react more in the moment, but yeah, it definitely hit harder after the fact. I will update you as soon as possible. Thank you for all your comments. Consensus. People say she is a doormat and that her husband is cheating with his best friend with a 100% probability. Notable comments. Commenter 1. Borderline disrespectful. I'd hate to see what you think is actually disrespectful. Commenter 2. You should be telling your husband it's not weird, it's par for the course. This is just the next step in the very apparent pattern of behavior asterisk from C that he's allowed to let happen. Over and over. Every time he left, whether to spend time with her out of the home or over the phone, to spend time with her. She tallied that as a victory. Now it's a matter of pushing the line. How much will he allow at your expense? How easy will he forgive with a short, insincere apology if he finally says something? She's playing a long game and trying to plant ideas, and it's even better when someone else can plant the ideas, too. Enter her family. This is not new. This is not weird. This is her normal behavior toward you. Maybe his rose-colored glasses are slipping. Commenter 3. Girl, if there was ever a legitimate reason to start a fight, it is this. That was a bizarre power move, and your husband being a doormat's allowing them to humiliate you made her think she won. You need to have a heart-to-heart with your husband because it seems like they were together at some point and your husband is not being honest with you. He also needs to learn to stand up for his wife. Commenter 4. If you want to give him the benefit of the doubt that his eyes have been opened about his old friend's feelings about him and you, that's one thing. His take on it now and his response will tell what kind of husband he really is. Ignoring or justifying her behavior would be red flags at this point. Commenter 5. Time for a spine check. I'm guessing it's pretty wobbly if it's there. Comments by me. Think I was so used to brushing off this kind of behavior that I didn't even realize how deeply disrespected I was. I grew up in an emotionally abusive household, where snide comments and passive aggression were just part of the background noise. So when someone pulls that kind of crap now, I think a part of me automatically minimizes it like, oh, I've heard worse, but reading all your reactions kind of snapped me out of that. And yeah, it hurts that my husband didn't shut it down. I've been trying to rationalize it in my head like maybe he didn't want to escalate things because it felt like a trap. Or that he is not used to being in these kind of situations. None of that excuses it, though. Not even a little. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow. Really talk. Not brush it off, not laugh it away. Just lay it all out. Because at this point, I need to know where he stands. Thanks for the reality check. I needed it more than I realized. I get why it sounds off. I probably would have side-eyed the whole thing too if I wasn't living it in real time. So no, I'm not a professional model. She just needed someone for a thesis project, and I've done a little hobby modeling here and there, so I figured it was casual enough to help out. I guess she didn't want to go through the trouble of hiring someone last minute. As for the location, C comes from money. Like, money. They'd converted part of their house into a kind of makeshift studio for her to work in. Lighting, backdrops, the whole deal. So that's where we did it, which I didn't think was too weird, until I got there and her whole family was hanging around like it was dinner theater. Drinking wine, making snide comments, just watching. It was honestly awkward as hell. I definitely wasn't expecting that. I thought it'd just be her and a camera, not a whole audience and running commentary. Fair enough, haha. I get that parts of it might come off a little stiff or off. This is actually my first time writing anything like this on Reddit, and English is my third language, so I used chat to clean up the grammar. I guess that polished it more than I realized, which might be why it reads kind of scripted in places. But the story itself? Totally real. I wish I had made it up because being there felt like some kind of fever dream I wasn't invited to participate in. If she has a job or is financially tied to her husband, yes, I work as a performance marketing manager, and we actually rent at the moment. Update. A quick recap for those who missed the original. My husband's childhood best friend, C, has never liked me. She skipped all invitations, but invites my husband alone, avoids me in person, and still found little ways to insert herself into his life. The final straw. She asked me to model for her final photography project. I showed up thinking maybe it was a fresh start. Nope. Instead, I got publicly mocked by her family, who joked out loud that she should have been the one marrying my husband. First off, holy crap. I did not expect that post to blow up like it did. Thank you to everyone who commented, messaged, or just made me feel like I wasn't losing my mind. So many of you asked for an update. And here it is. For those wondering, no, they never dated. He had a high school crush on her over a decade ago. That's ancient history. No, I don't think he's ever cheated, emotionally or physically. He's always very open and honest. We have each other's passwords. They barely see each other anymore in person, maybe once every few months. We live about 2 hours away. Okay. So here's the update. Funny enough, I didn't even get the chance to sit down and talk to my husband before something else happened. I just can't believe my life at the moment. Anyway, I was still trying to process what happened and sort through my anger toward C, and honestly, toward my husband too. That's when I got a message from my sister-in-law, we'll call her M. I'm really close with M. She's also part of the wider social circle that C floats around in. They're friendly but not close. She sent me a screen recording from C's close friend's story with a simple, WTF. It was a clip of me posing during the shoot, no music. But in the background, you can clearly hear C's sister say, C should have been the one to marry him. I lost it. I waited until my husband got home from work, sat him down, and showed him the video. He watched it once, then again. His whole face changed, he finally looked pissed. I could not help but think, why didn't he have the same reaction there? So I laid it all out. I told him everything. Every snide comment, every time C made me feel small. How I'd always tried to be civil. How I never asked him to choose between us. But I was done being polite while someone consistently disrespected me. I told him, if this doesn't bother you enough to act, we've got a bigger problem. I'm not going to be in a marriage where I have to beg to be defended. I need a partner who stands up for me. And if that's not you, then I need to rethink this. He didn't argue. Didn't get defensive, and I know he feels sorry. Then I showed him the Reddit post. He tried to read every comment. Some of them made him tear up. When he finished, he looked at me and said that he feels like the worst husband. He let this happen right in front of him. He is so sorry. And asked me, what do you need from me now? I told him straight up, this isn't just about her anymore. It's about whether or not you're willing to protect this marriage. But I'm not going to feel like I'm second place in my own relationship. So it's either me or her. So we called C. She picked up all cheerful, acting like nothing had happened. We brought up the video. She immediately got defensive. Oh come on, it was just a joke. Are you really mad over that, seriously? And that's when he stepped in. This isn't just about the video. It's the constant disrespect toward my wife. I didn't say anything before because I didn't want to lose your friendship, and I convinced myself you didn't mean it. But what happened at that shoot? That was disgusting. My wife came to support you, and you and your family treated her like a joke. I didn't speak up then, and I'm ashamed of that. But that ends now. I don't even know why I held on to this friendship for so long. If you can't respect my wife, you don't respect me. She laughed, literally laughed. Wow, you're really cutting me off over that girl. OMG, I was ready to fight. But husband calmed me down, said to see if choosing between you and my wife ever felt like a hard decision, I wouldn't deserve her. We're not kids anymore, you need to grow up. I simply do not want to be your friend anymore. I have nothing else to say. Telling you he can be a gem sometimes. But yeah, we blocked her and her entire family. Since then, he's been checking in with me. Not trying to fix things. Just showing up. Listening, understanding. He finally sees what I've been dealing with. We've still got some healing to do. But now I know where he stands. And that changes everything for me. To everyone who commented last time, thank you. Seriously. You helped me feel like I wasn't crazy. And maybe even more importantly, you helped him finally see it too. Consensus. People are glad husband stepped up. Notable comments. Commenter 1. It was the fact she genuinely thought that there was any choice between you and her, and update us cause I guarantee this won't be the last you hear from her. Commenter 2. This is what apologizing looks like. Address your shortcomings, ask what to do to fix it, and acts with intent to remedy the situation at hand in order to mend the one at risk. It sucks a guy sometimes has to get slapped across the face with something that is so obvious, but it's how he responded that was redeeming. Stories number 22. Aita, still, because I grew from the divorce and became the husband-father my ex had wanted me to be, I was the I know it. My ex and I, 40s, married in college in our early 20s. We went from living in the dorms together to being married and living on our own in another state due to my job. We enjoyed the honeymoon period with each other along with being young 20-somethings in an exciting new city. Not long after being married she was pregnant and our first child was born a few months after our first anniversary. She was a SOM, I picked up overtime to cover everything. She matured way faster than I to support the baby, I was still closer to being a college dorm student than I was a husband-father equal. We had constant fights how I wasn't doing enough to help or supporting her physically or emotionally. I kept trying to tell her how I was doing enough, how I worked 80 hours last week, how I changed a diaper last week, how I cooked my own meal, just for me, so she wouldn't have to, etc. She would explain her problems and how I could help her, but I didn't hear them, I just wanted to argue. I used weaponized incompetence before that term was coined. In my mind I was working hard and she was just being unrealistic and couldn't see how much I did. In reality, there was far more work than I realized. My ex was drowning and asking for help and all I would do was argue with her about how there was no way she was drowning. Things would improve every few months, partly because I would do a little more work, partly because she just internalized her frustrations and stopped initiating conversations about them. We had another child during this time, but this soon added even more stress and the fights grew even worse. Eventually she said she couldn't handle it any longer and moved in with family a few hours away. I tried to win her back through love bombing, again, before I knew what that was, and figured she would come to her senses. And so I was extremely surprised when I got served the divorce papers. I couldn't believe it, I never cheated on her, I didn't abuse her, I had no vices, we loved each other, how could she be divorcing me? Yet she did, and when we met with lawyers I was taken off guard by how much resentment there was towards me. Where had that come from? We agreed to every other weekend visitations. The first time I had to take care of my 2 toddlers on my own for 2 whole days was an eye-opener. I had done it once or twice when married, but she had prepped everything, pre-made the meals, picked out the clothes, cleaned the house, etc. I was still learning how to consistently do the laundry and wash the dishes every day and pick up after myself. I had gone from living with my parents, to living in the dorms with roommates who constantly cleaned, to living with my ex. I knew how to take care of a house but never had to do it all on my own, someone else always picked up the slack. And now I was fully responsible for that and for 2 little lives for 48 hours. I remember being completely overwhelmed, and hit by a huge wave of empathy and understanding of where she had been over the past few years and what I had done to her. I apologized to her, but that only made her angrier, so I grew up. I vowed to make the most out of each weekend with my children. I learned how to cook, I actually liked cooking, I learned how to braid hair, I bought tons of unnecessary toddler supplies and packed them all in the stroller just in case my kids needed something on a walk, etc. On my own time I picked up new hobbies and went to the gym. I read the non-fiction, how-to relationship books that my ex had been begging me to read. Overall I worked on myself and tried to become a super dad to my kids. A couple of years after the divorce I started dating again. Being a single dad in my late 20s was a turn-off to a lot of women and I was rejected often, but I found myself being matched with other single moms and really connecting with them. I eventually met my now wife, a single mom whose ex had abandoned her for someone else and wanted nothing to do with their children. And to her, I was the perfect catch, a loving dad who worked hard, did the household chores, and was devoted to her. I learned from my mistakes in my first marriage, and took all the criticisms my ex had made about me to heart and improved from them. I became the husband my ex tried to make me into. I still slip up, and still have a lot to learn, but I do that with the support of my wife. I would still see my ex every other week and the relationship improved somewhat, but there was still an undertone of resentment in each interaction. She went back to school, got a job, and raised our kids as a single mom. I tried to get more visitation as they got older, but she fought back, and due to them living too far for daily visits, I only got longer summers with them. I have no idea about her dating life. I never asked the kids about her, but she is unmarried. I know very little about her life. She could be very happy and enjoying everything. But within our few interactions very little of that shows. Now, our youngest is a senior and going to graduate, and I've been talking to my ex more to prepare for it. It's mostly cordial, but occasionally hints of anger and passive-aggressive comments come out. I have thanked her for being a wonderful mother to our children and raising them, and again apologized for never being there or taking her seriously all those years ago. I still feel like the though, sometimes because of how she understandably treats me, and other times just from my own guilt of how I treated her when we were married. She is about to have an empty nest after devoting her life to children when I failed her, and I am living the suburban family life we had planned for but with someone other than her. Am I still the for learning from my divorce and becoming the husband I should have been with my ex? Update, Aita, still, because I grew from the divorce and became the husband-father my ex had wanted me to be. Original post TLDR, I married my ex in college, both now in our 40s, had 2 kids within 3 years, I worked while she was a SOM, I was the and I did not share the workload mental load, argued with her when she said she needed help, eventually she left and filed for divorce, and I was shocked to learn how much work it was to raise 2 toddlers as a newly single parent. The shock made me realize how much I failed her in our marriage. I apologized to her, worked to become a better father in person, years later met a single mom whom I eventually married and gained 2 amazing children, learned from my previous relationship mistakes to better support my growing family, and lived the suburban life that my ex and I had planned for but now with someone else. My older children lived with me 5 months out of the year, my ex went back to school, got a job, remained single, and we co-parented our 2 children, now adults. I still felt like the though, sometimes because of how she understandably treated me with veiled resentment, and from my own guilt of how I treated her when we were married. Thank you for those who continue to reach out for updates. While nothing has changed from my previous post's original question, I will always be the in my ex's eyes, I will have guilt for that for life, will continue to try to make amends with her, and will try to do better with my wife and kids. There was an event that brought a little closure recently. My youngest child, now 18, with my ex graduates this month. My ex held a party for them at her house which was attended by immediate family and friends from both sides. It was the first time many members of our respective families had been together since our wedding 20+ years ago. We hosted separate parties for our oldest child's graduation 2 years ago. Overall, the party went very well. Our daughter was celebrated and felt appreciated. She said it felt a little weird to have her 2 worlds collide, such as when her siblings hung out with her maternal cousins, or having both sets of grandparents spending lots of time talking with each other and laughing. It brought a pang of guilt that my daughter didn't remember a time when her grandparents were close friends, as they were before her mother and I divorced. My wife and my ex spent time with each other and laughed a few times. My wife won't tell me what all they talked about, so my guess is they shared some common war stories about me. My ex and I had a chance to talk as well. We mostly talked about the kids and how proud we were of our daughter, how excited she is to move for college, and what our oldest child was up to. She asked what was next with our family and I gave updates about my younger kids and their future graduations and activities. She returned that she was excited and a little anxious about having an empty nest. Her job is mostly the same but going well and she is planning on traveling. She also casually dropped the name Mark during our conversation. Mark and I talked about doing, and I had no idea who she was talking about. Maybe he's someone she's seeing, but she didn't elaborate, I didn't pry, and the topic moved on. I suspect we each assume our kids inform the other parent about our respective life updates more than they actually do, because it didn't seem like she was trying to drop major news on me when she said it. And there was no Mark present at the party, so I really have no idea what their connection is. Near the end, I again thanked her for being a wonderful mother to our children and briefly re-apologized for my actions years ago. She replied kindly and apologized for fighting so hard against me when I requested more visitation a decade ago. Note, initially, I only saw the kids every other weekend with short summers. I pushed for more visitation after I remarried, had moved into a larger house that could fit everyone, and was in a position to take care of the kids for longer times. I asked for 50-50 but ended up with 40-60 after a bitter mediation. We returned to talking about the kids and the conversation mostly ended after that. And that seems like it. I don't see the need for other updates. I doubt I will see much of my ex. The kids now adults are both doing their own things, have their own cars, and can visit their individual parents and siblings as they wish. There are no more visitation drop-offs between my ex and I. There will probably be college graduations and maybe eventual weddings, but beyond that our interactions are mostly finished. While we both had caused each other frustration, pain, and resentment over the years after the divorce, and I will always have my guilt for failing her in our marriage, in the end we successfully raised two happy children who are starting their own adult lives. Each of our lives took unexpected paths to get here, but we got here nonetheless and are proud our children made it through while feeling loved. My wife and younger kids are also happy and doing well. There are tons of updates with all them but those aren't relevant to this subreddit. I am not the to them, I'm just dad and husband, although sometimes they are embarrassed reluctant to admit to having those associations with me. Stories number 23. Our crazy neighbors told our landlord we do hard drugs, we don't. To start the story here is some context. I work in a small rural school and live in a duplex owned by the school division I work for. They don't reserve the school-owned housing for staff but staff does get first dibs. My boyfriend and I who were both born and raised and work in this small community have been living in this house for 3 years. Okay, now for the story. In September we got new neighbors on the other side of our duplex. They looked like a sweet old couple and did not work for the school division. They got the house because it was empty and no other staff needed it. For 3 months we tried to introduce ourselves to them. Every time we were outside at the same time we would try to say hi and they would always hurry into their house without saying anything back. Now to the end of March and we still haven't met our neighbors. However, we have recently learned from other people that met them, that our neighbors are retired and moved here from a few provinces away. They have recently moved their adult son in with them as well. Apparently they moved here because God called them to this community because we are a bunch of sinners that need to be saved. Now mind you at this point it's all rumors. We have stopped trying to introduce ourselves but are still being very courteous neighbors. We don't listen to loud music, we make sure our TV is never too loud, and we make sure after 10 p.m. that we don't make any loud noises. Now to April. Just before Easter I get an email from our landlord saying he needs us to call him as soon as we can. My boyfriend and I both come home for lunch that day so that we can call him together and our landlord tells us something wild. He says our neighbors came to his office and told him we are doing and cooking meth in our house. They say there is a smell and they didn't know what it was at first but then their pastor came over one day and told them the smell was meth. Our landlord says they told him they could only smell it on Fridays and Saturday and theorizes we don't do it Sunday because we need Sunday to sober up for work. They tell him that they are worried about a fire hazard because they think we are making the drug and they don't feel safe. He says his wife is moving out because she is worried about being poisoned from the smell. Our landlord, having known us for a long time, does not believe them. He tried to calm them down and tell them it's not anything to worry about. They get upset and threaten to call the cops. So our landlord has warned us about all this and tells us to just be prepared in case the police do show up. And he advised us to let the police into our home to look around and see we have nothing to hide. Now to the present, May. There has been no police show up at our house. We have not seen our neighbors in weeks and believe they are almost never home because there is never any vehicles there. We have stopped being the nice neighbors and do not worry about how loud our TV is or if we make loud noises at night. A bit petty of us, but what would you do if your neighbors were trying to get you kicked out? Today I get another email from my landlord saying he needs me to call him. He says my neighbors claim that the husband is in the hospital and the doctors have found traces of meth in his system and they want us evicted immediately. Again, our landlord doesn't believe them and tells them to not worry, but to make them feel better he is coming to tour both of our places next week. My boyfriend and I have both offered to provide drug tests to our landlord to show the neighbors. They will obviously be negative for everything. This has been absolutely insane. This couple comes into a small community and tries to spread lies about a family who has been here for over 20 years, me and my boyfriend. No one in our town believes them and it has become a joke at both of our places of work. If anyone is interested in this story, I will keep updating after our landlord visits. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, start being proactive. Talk with other neighbors. Talk with the staff at the grocery store, and the bakery, the delivery people, postmen, and most importantly, people from church. They always seem to be the most chatty ones. Don't make it obvious that you're telling people about how they behave. But let it sneak naturally into the conversation. And yes, offer your landlord to take DIY meth test kits into your home to test for it. Then he can also test their home. It sounds more likely that they're doing that. Reply, already did. It is a very, very small community. No grocery store in town, we drive to the closest city for groceries, but we do have a local dinner and that is the gossip hub of town, so I stopped into the dinner the other day and told the biggest town gossip the whole story. Now everyone in town knows it's a crock of crap. Commenter 2, they sound delusional. This may be a way to get them evicted. Because I'm sure your landlord is getting tired of the drama. False allegations of crimes is one way for them to be evicted. Reply, our landlord has told us to tell him anything they may do to us or if we catch them watching us. He is looking for a reason to evict them, but it is not easy to evict someone if they are paying their rent on time. Commenter 3, makes you wonder if they ended up relocating because they tried this shit elsewhere and got communally shunned. Commenter 4, the son that moved in with them is smoking meth in their apartment. Commenter 5, hire an attorney, send letters to neighbors and copy to the landlord that you will not accept their slander without seeking damages to your financial loss, emotional distress, or damage to reputation. Seriously, don't let small town gossips drive your reputation. Update, it got crazier. First, here are some questions that were asked frequently I thought I would answer. This couple is probably in their 80s and their adult son looks to be at least 50. We do not smell anything, actually had to Google what meth smelled like, so we don't think their son is doing or cooking it. We believe they are trying to come up with a crazy story to get us kicked out to move their son into our side. My boyfriend and I are not a same-sex couple, however we do live together and are not married, which could be a reason for them picking on us. We both work a second job on weekends, because we are young and can and want to save to buy a house, so we aren't even home Friday nights and Saturdays, which is when they claim they smell it. And as a note, our community is so small we literally know everyone in town and around it. We have 2 places in town that are non-residential, a dinner where I work on weekends and a school where I work during the week. Seems like everyone around has heard about their outlandish story and finds it funny or crazy. No one believes them. Okay, now for the update. My boyfriend has contacted a lawyer and they told us everything we need to do to give them a cease and desist, and if they do not stop we can sue for slander and file a restraining order. We have not decided if we are going to do this yet. Our landlord came today, and I had a good chat with him before he went to do his inspection of both sides of the house. He said he would get everything together for us in case we do sue them. He clarified few things we have heard. It wasn't their pastor who came over. It was their son who goes by the nickname Pastor Pete, not his real name but another P name to keep up the alteration. He claimed he came over for supper and smelled it, which means they are trying to hide that their son lives with them. This neighbor claims we are selling the drugs we cook to the kids at the school I work at. They are pointing the blame mostly at my boyfriend, and the reason they claim it's him is because we wears hoodie a lot and apparently that's a sign of a drug addict. Apparently they feel bad for me for getting caught up in the boyfriend's mess. They claims they know we are cooking it cause they see yellow smoke coming from our back door. My boyfriend quit smoking cigarettes 7 months ago, but we do have a smoker on our back deck, but that's white smoke, not yellow. And now is where it gets even more crazy. They are now threatening to sue our landlord for attempted murder. Not the school division, our landlord specifically. They claim they have the grounds to do this because in the Renters Act it supposedly claims that if the landlord is informed of illegal drug use on the property they have 48 hours to evict said tenants. However, they don't have any proof, so our landlord didn't have to evict us. But yeah, they are trying to sue our landlord for attempted murder. We have caught them in multiple lies regarding their story, so we know for a fact that they are just making this up. The first lie we caught them in was the doctor's visit with the talk screen showing meth in our neighbor's system. The landlord has asked to see it for proof and they have refused to show him, which makes us think they don't have one at all. We also had no police visit, and you think they would have sent police here to try to prove their story of the meth in their system coming from us and not them doing it. The next lie was that they told our landlord that they filled a police report about us, but we have again seen no cops, and when our landlord tried to ask them for the report they refused to share it. So he called the police station and they said no report has been made. He clarified that they would have to share it with him as the landlord. And the last lie was that they told him they refused to enter the house without hazmat suits, yet I saw them going in and out of the house twice this weekend without the suits. We also learned that a cease and desist does not need to come from a lawyer, so we have written one up and will be delivering it to them today. They aren't home, so we will just stick it in their door. We hope that this is the end of it and hopefully they will get sick of living here and move. But if they do complain again, we have been advised by our landlord to call the non-emergency number for the local RCMP and ask them to come do a search of the house and then go to the neighbors and tell them the house is all clear because they might respect someone with a badge. I will update if we have anything else to add. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. You don't mention if the landlord toured their place when he was over. Just curious what he found. Reply, he did tour their place. Said it looked good. The place was trashed by the previous tenant and this crazy old guy is a retired contractor, so he got 2 months free rent to fix it up and they said he did a good job. Only weird thing was the wife has a creepy doll collection in the living room. Commenter 2, don't put the note on the door. You need proof they received it. Send it certified mail that they have to sign for. Commenter 3, I wonder if the sun is cooking meth, right under their noses and they are blaming you as a projection that they've been convinced of. Commenter 4, also, how do they know what meth smoke looks like? I wouldn't have been able to guess it even made smoke. They are telling on themselves, it sounds like. Stories number 24. Aita for not attending my daughter's gender reveal for her lizard. This is literally really stupid but she's really upset about it. So my, 48, daughter, 23, has a blue-tongued skink who she heavily adores. She jokingly refers to it as her daughter. I found it weird but she says it's because it's the closest thing she'd have to a child and she feels a strong emotional bond similar to a child. She has decided to remain child-free for multiple reasons and I have been very supportive of this decision. Well, she recently took her skink to the vet for a checkup and she was excited to find out her skink's gender. Afterwards I got a text asking if I'd come to her gender reveal party she was having. She explained it was just a small get-together with cake and food for her friend she hasn't seen in a while, with the gender reveal being mostly a joke, and a way to make fun of real gender reveals. Well, I didn't come. I didn't see a point. It's just a lizard and I'm a busy person. She later called me and expressed she was kind of sad I didn't come cause it had been a while since I'd seen her, but she understood I was busy. I told her she couldn't actually expect me to come to a gender reveal for a lizard. She said that it wasn't a real gender reveal, that was more of a joke and it was really just a small gathering to catch up with everyone. I told her if that was the case she should have just called it a gathering because I'm not coming to a gender reveal unless it's for a real granddaughter. She got quiet for a minute and then turned my words around, claiming I wasn't supportive of her decision to be child-free. I told her she can't possibly expect me to treat a lizard as a granddaughter. She said she didn't expect me to, but it was clear I didn't respect her bond with her lizard and her decision, and she just wanted to see me and my reason for coming was hurtful. I told her she was being ridiculous over a lizard. She claimed it wasn't over the lizard and it was a gathering and not even centered around the lizard, but I stick by to what I said. It's ridiculous to have a gender reveal for a lizard. She hung up and I got a message from her best friend about how I'm an asshole for treating her that way, but I don't think I'm the asshole for not wanting to go to a party for a lizard. Edit. In the time I was away I got many replies and it was a lot to read through. Let me clear a couple things up. My issue is that she said the party was a gender reveal. If she had called it just a party I would have come. But calling it a gender reveal makes it sound like it's for the lizard, and I'm not going to that even if it is a joke. I don't know why it matters, but the skink is a girl, which is why I said, I'm not coming to a gender reveal unless it's for a real granddaughter. Even though I don't agree with my daughter for being child-free, I have been supportive and only shown mild frustration. The reason she decided to be child-free is she claims she's asexual, she just doesn't want one, she has emotional baggage and feels unable to care for a real child, she fears pregnancy, and she has a carrier gene like me and doesn't want to go through what I did. I had 4 miscarriages and a highly defect child that died after 3 months due to the gene. Yes, there has been slight tension between us because I think she just hasn't found the right man, she never dated growing up, and her other fears are unnecessarily exaggerated, but it's ultimately her decision and I don't resent her. We haven't seen each other in 3 months. I'm a single mother and we have always been close, which is why she invited me with her friends. I just didn't want to go to a party with a lizard, and if it wasn't for the lizard she should have called it a party instead of a gender reveal. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I think this is the issue right here. OP is stingy with love. Why should I love a stupid lizard? Why can't you get interested in the things your kid likes and share her excitement and joy? Just the little things. No, she's never going to have kids, so you could have seen that adorable, quirky kid you raised to be as funny and sweet as she is and gone to her party and mingled with her probably also quirky, funny, sweet friends and had a lovely time, but no, what a loss, how sad. Reply. I will be honest, I don't have any particular feelings for the lizard. I think it looks like a snake and that freaks me out, and it is incapable of feeling emotions, so I don't know why she feels a bond with it. She even named it Ellie, a human name, so she can tell people, I have to get home to Ellie, so she can act like she's busy with a kid at home, which I believe is an unhealthy way to cope with her social anxiety. She should learn to get comfortable with saying no instead of using a lizard as an excuse to neglect social obligations. Commenter 2. Huge white A. At first I was like, okay, I get it, she jokes about it being for the lizard. Then I got to your updates. She claims she's asexual. You have totally invalidated your 23-year-old daughter who knows very well by now who the H at LL she is. Your following comment. I think she just hasn't found the right man, she never dated growing up. Hello. She was waving a huge flag here. She is asexual. If she came out as lesbian, would you say she just has not met the right man? Next you invalidate her fears of going through the same heartbreak that yourself went through trying to have other kids from miscarriages to a child who passed after a so short life. Not everyone is as emotionally stunted as you that they could speak of those situations so devoid of feeling. I am actually tearing up thinking about what you went through and how in your small mind you wish your own surviving child would go through it as well just to pop out a kid. Get over yourself, Mom, and yes quotes, because you do not deserve that title any longer. I hope this shows your amazing asexual daughter that her life is 1000x better without you in it. Also, for your sake go get therapy, you need to reconnect with your emotions. Reply, I wouldn't say I've invalidated it. She says she doesn't experience sexual romantic attraction nor has a want for it, which is only because she hasn't found the right person yet. It's impossible for someone to not feel such a natural feeling, everyone feels it, it is a normal chemical in our body. I've tried to explain this to her, for some reason she fears physical interaction with men. I think her fears probably stems from not having a father because he left when she was 3. Yes, it was hard on me. There were many tears and it's partly why her father left, but that's what mothers do. She knows how important to me it is that I finally gave birth to a child that actually lived to grow up, and it does hurt she wouldn't continue for me when I went through that pain. That's why there's been tension for her decision, and I will admit I am unhappy with her decision, but I have been as supportive as I can and haven't been mean about it. Commenter 3. YTA. That's your grand lizard. ETA, it was obviously not just about the gender reveal and your daughter wanted to see you. Commenter 4. So wait. Afterwards I got a text asking if I'd come to her gender reveal party she was having. She explained it was just a small get-together with cake and food for her friend she hasn't seen in a while, with the gender reveal being mostly a joke, and a way to make fun of real gender reveals. But 2 paragraphs later, I told her she couldn't actually expect me to come to a gender reveal for a lizard. She said that it wasn't a real gender reveal, that was more of a joke and it was really just a small gathering to catch up with everyone. I told her if that was the case she should have just called it a gathering because I'm not coming to a gender reveal unless it's for a real granddaughter. You just told on yourself, OP. She had already told you it was a joke, and you refused to go out of spite because she won't have kids. Then you had the gall to fucking gaslight her. In fact, she told you twice that the party wasn't actually for the lizard, but to the very end of your post, you keep saying it was for the lizard. Reply, she kept labeling it was a gender reveal though. She bought a cake that says, it's a girl, and popped a pink sparkly glitter popper too, which I think is ridiculous. The lizard can't appreciate or love this, it can't even feel emotions. Friends reply, YTA, and I'm surprised you had the gall to post this knowing she frequents Reddit. This is the best friend that texted you. You blocked my number, not that it matters. You know it wasn't about the reveal, it was an excuse to hold a party. We had fun without you. The lizard had an adorable tiny party hat, we had cake that said, it's a girl, and we popped a glittery sparkly party popper. It got all over the walls and ceiling and our friend John, and we started making jokes like, call the EMS for John, and, they do say gender reveals are dangerous. Who knew? But I'm sure she sent you the video so you know what you missed out on. We made fun of it for the most part and blasted The Last of Us music since that's where Ellie's name comes from, not because she wanted an excuse for her social anxiety. She struggled with her identity for years and you were never supportive. When she was trying to figure out if she was lesbian you sat her down for 30 minutes and explained how it's normal to get feelings confused but people weren't meant to like the same gender and it was probably just friendship feelings she was confusing. You're part of the reason she never explored her sexuality further with your S*X is natural, and you can't have a relationship without S*X comments, knowing not only is she mildly autistic and already struggles to understand and comprehend her emotions but she's also a victim of a negative experience. You know she has a codependency issue and living by herself has been really difficult for her to overcome and Ellie has helped immensely. She was upset you didn't come when she wanted to see you because she adores you and you didn't even call her for Thanksgiving. Stories number 25. Aita for demanding an apology to my 3-year daughter from my mother. My husband bought a big chocolate bunny from Trader Joe's for my 3-year-old daughter for Easter. She wanted to share it with my little sister, 6Y.0, so she waited patiently like 2 weeks when we got to see her. We went over to my mom's and the girls forgot to eat the bunny and we left it at my mom's on accident. I called her 10 minutes after we had left and asked her to please save the rabbit for my daughter, we were going to be back soon, because she was so excited to share it with my sister. My mom said fine, she'd save it, but that she, my mom, really wanted to eat it. Later that night she sends me a text asking me if she could eat it. I said no. Next day she texts me asking me if she could please eat it because she was craving something sweet. I said no, please save, because my daughter was really excited about it. An hour later she texts me saying that she ate it anyways. We started arguing over the phone and somehow blamed me for her eating the chocolate. My daughter then proceeds to ask me about the chocolate and I told her there wasn't any because her grandma had ate it. She started crying and was really upset. She told me she wanted to confront my mom about it and I told her that was fine, but to be kind and gentle when she did. I told my mom my daughter deserved an apology for her behavior and she said that she's just a kid and they don't get to decide anything or get apologies, and said she didn't do anything wrong so she didn't have anything to apologize for anyways. So I basically told her not to reach out to us until she has a sincere apology for my daughter. It's not about the chocolate bunny. It's the fact that she didn't give a damn about a simple favor I asked for or a damn about her granddaughter's feelings. Of course she's making it seem like I'm crazy and probably telling my family about how I'm a crazy and bitter person. What else is new? Stories number 26. My GF, F37, moved into my home, M40, and doesn't contribute. What should I do? So about 2 years ago my GF moved into my home. She treats me very well and is very nice to me, but she really hasn't contributed much of anything in that time. I make dinner 80% plus of the time, I pay 100% of the mortgage, utilities, property taxes etc. When she moved in she said she'd contribute money for utilities and keep the fridge stocked. Neither has happened. She sent me $300 for utilities on 2 occasions, $600 MO is closer to what utilities cost here, and never stocks the fridge. She doesn't clean a lot, do laundry, or help me with much. She makes over $100,000, and spends every dime of it on herself, mostly on dumb stuff, and invests none of it. I have had many conversations about the topic of money and her not contributing and I always get excuses. I also learned that she has almost nothing in savings, which baffled me. She acknowledges that her behavior is unreasonable and promises to change, but she never does. If anything, it's gotten worse lately. I also noticed she has a lot of credit cards recently and am curious if she has racked up debt on those. I could go on and on over things that don't add up in a partnership. I make good money and could probably find a way to just support us both, not super comfortably, but I don't want to do that, and given our situation I shouldn't have to. My business is also slow currently and having some help would be very nice. I really just feel taken advantage of and not sure what my next move is. The frank conversations with her have not gotten through. I don't want to work my whole life to support someone who blows money recklessly and makes my retirement age get higher. Stories number 27. My ex-husband became rich and famous after our divorce. I met my ex-husband when I was 23 and fell head over heels in love with him immediately. We secretly married a month after meeting, the epitome of young and dumb, but I loved him and knew he was a hard-working man that would be successful one way or the other, and we would be a power couple in our own way, so threw caution to the wind, thanks frontal lobe. Well, 3 months into the marriage he cheated on me, and then 8 months later he said he wasn't ready for this type of commitment. Despite that, I wasn't really in a rush to get divorced because I think I subconsciously hoped with a little time and maturity he'd realize we were meant to be together and he'd choose me. I feel so pathetic typing this out now, but gosh, it was the truth. We stayed legally married for nearly half a decade. During that time we'd see other people, but we were still close and our lives were intertwined in a lot of ways. But then I got a job opportunity in another state, and I just felt like it was a now or never moment in our marriage. We mutually agreed divorce was probably best, and weirdly a month after initiating the divorce with my husband I met another person I fell head over heels for, and it made me feel like I was making the right decision. A few years after my divorce my ex is now famous on social media and makes a pretty good living off of it. Luckily, the type of content isn't my cup of tea, so I don't see it very often, but the what-ifs creep into my mind sometimes. It's weird because when I look back on my decisions, I wouldn't change a thing. Particularly because I'm not a money-motivated person anyway, and to a certain extent I'm glad I chose love, and myself, over a marriage that wasn't working. But at the same time I feel a bit silly having to work a regular job while my ex is living the life, so to speak. And to a certain extent, the objective truth is the life he has wouldn't be possible without me, but his content and his growth was 100% him, so really he's earned it, and how things have ended up is truly fair, but gosh, sometimes I wonder. 'Twas good to get this off my chest. Edit. Thank you all for your responses, you have helped me work through a lot of my feelings. It's easy to look back on things with rose-colored glasses, but even typing this out helped me remember why I made the choices that I did. In addition, while I do have a beautiful and successful life by my own standards, I feel like I'm at a point that I need a real change, so I think some of my feelings about the lack of satisfaction about my current situation I misplaced into wistfulness over my ex. Thanks for helping me remember it's a dead fish in the water. Stories number 28. A girl I know is faking epilepsy. So there's a girl at my school who claims to have epilepsy, and she conveniently has seizures whenever there's an important test. A girl in our friend group was asking her ABT her supposed epilepsy, and she didn't know what type she's supposed to have, she didn't know what kind of seizures she's supposed to be having, or anything. One of the guys that's new to the friend group followed her on TikTok, and she posts a lot of movie edits, anime edits, thirst traps, and he said that she probably needed to put trigger warnings for flashing lights on her posts JS to make sure that someone who has photosensitive seizures doesn't watch it, and she got mad and was like saying that she doesn't need to do that, that's stupid to put a trigger warning for that. People like that need to stop being attention seeking and whatever else kinda shit she was saying. Kinda odd that someone who supposedly has epilepsy to not cater to the epileptic community. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. This girl needs to understand that epilepsy is neurological and cannot be controlled. Ask her what meds she takes, and that she needs to have an EEG because it's really dangerous and she could die. Especially if she's having them so often at school. Make it really real, she'll roll away real fast. Reply, I'll do that as soon as I see her on Sunday for a group hangout. OOP responds to a comment about their friend's memories after seizures. Reply, she has an excellent memory, she remembers every detail from memories even from years ago. Her mom should know what kind they are if it's real, and she never mentions it around her mom, and when we bring it up she acts like she doesn't know what we're talking ABT. Commenter 2, does her mom get notified when her kid has these seizures? Does she get sent home or to the nurse or anything? I'm very curious to find out. My friend in high school had epilepsy and her mom had to be notified via nurse's office if she started getting auras or anything that told her she might start seizing. Crazy business that this faking behavior hasn't made its way to her parents yet. Reply, she goes to the nurse and every time. She told the teachers that she's not safe at home and that they don't need to contact anyone but her older sister who goes to the college close by. Commenter 3, aren't most epileptic seizures grand mal seizures? I could be wrong as I don't have epilepsy. Reply, it's different for everyone, but yes, that's the majority. Commenter 4, wouldn't she get sent to the hospital if she had seizures? I had what looked like a seizure once and it was straight to the hospital as soon as I was conscious. Reply, if someone has a seizure for longer than 5 minutes then yes, they have to be taken to the emergency room to make sure there isn't brain damage. Update 1. My friend group was all hanging out and I brought up that I was going to start driving soon and said it was too bad that she couldn't drive for a while, and she was confused and didn't say anything. I asked if her medicine was helping and she said yeah, it's helping a lot, and I asked her which one it was so my twin brother could try it and she didn't know the name. I asked if she had a rescue medicine and she didn't know what that meant. I asked her if she told the school nurse that she didn't have a rescue medicine, and she didn't know she had to. I told her that I could talk to the nurse and tell them that I was concerned she's having seizures so often without a rescue medicine, and she said I didn't have to do that, so I told her that I could request to keep my phone with me in class so in case she has another one I could call the emergency services, and she quickly told me that wasn't necessary. I asked her if there was any kind of repercussions from her seizures since she's had them for so long and almost every day, and she said that she has a headache sometimes. I told her that she should probably talk to her neurologist to see what they can do about an increase in her medication, and she said she has an appointment next week, and I asked if she needed a ride and she said her sister would take her. I asked her why her parents can't take her and she said that they don't know about her seizures. So I acted surprised and I asked if she knew that SUDEP was very dangerous especially without caretakers knowing about her epilepsy, and she didn't know what that was or how it was dangerous. My friends all looked at each other in a way that we all knew our suspicions were correct. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Do they have PNES and she just calls it epilepsy? Still annoying, but I've noticed an uptick of people being diagnosed with PNES and they are proud of it. Reply, she's never mentioned non-epileptic seizures, she always says it's epilepsy. Commenter 2, how in the world would her parents not know? LOL. Reply, FR, it's kinda hard not to know if your child has a chronic illness. Commenter 3, why has the school not done anything about this? Some things they can't do, like accuse her of faking, but have they never contacted her parents about these extremely frequent seizures? Reply, she told the school that she's not safe at home and for them to contact her older sister. Commenter 3, how old is she anyway? Where is she supposedly getting medicated without parental consent? This is crazy. Reply, she's 15, and supposedly her sister is helping her get meds. Commenter 4, as an epileptic, I love that you did this. It's not cool to fake epilepsy and makes it harder for those of us who do have it to not be brushed off. Reply, I appreciate it. Yeah, my twin brother has epilepsy, and it PMO when people try to make it a quirky thing like, OMG, I can get out of any situation I don't want to be in. If they knew what it was actually like to live with epilepsy, they wouldn't wish it on their worst enemy. Commenter 5, is she literally faking seizures in front of you people or just saying after the fact that she had one? Only wondering I have no clue how someone could pull off a fake seizure. Especially around someone whose brother literally has epilepsy. Reply, yeah, she's been faking them in front of the entire class. I knew it was bullshit from the beginning and called her out for it when class was dismissed, but she argued that she was professionally diagnosed. I'm not one to argue when someone gets defensive, so at the time I let it go, but she's faked like 3 seizures and I'm over it. Update 2. She texted me this morning before school asking if my twin brother and I were going to go shopping with the group after school today. I told her no, we weren't going to go today. My brother had some pretty bad seizures this morning and neither of us could go to school. I have to take care of him while our parents are at work. She asked why he had to stay home if it was just a seizure. I called her and went off on her. I told her that she doesn't know what it's like to have actual seizures and she needs to STFU and stop pretending to know things she's never experienced in her life. If she saw a real seizure she would be traumatized, especially if it's someone she loves. Then I hung up. She called me back crying, apologizing for saying it was just a seizure and that she didn't mean to offend me. She also said her epilepsy is different than my brother's and I needed to stop fake claiming her. She said that I was insensitive to what it means to have epilepsy and she asked what if my brother was faking it and not her. I interrupted her and asked if she's ever had an EEG. She said no. I told her that she would have had at least one if she actually had epilepsy. I told her that she would have missed out on so much if she had seizures as often as she claims, but magically she shows up to every event, every time the group hangs out, every concert, every theme park. If she actually had epilepsy she wouldn't make it to everything. She went quiet. I told her that if she wants to come over and see if he has another one then be my guest, but I don't want to hear her cry if she sees him have one. She declined and hung up. We'll see if she drops the act after this, but something tells me she won't. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, she's probably gonna start spreading lies about you. I know this high school drama all too well. I hope your brother is recovering from his seizures okay. Sending love. Reply, if she does, I don't really GAF. I'm semi-popular, and at least a few people will have my back. TYSM, he's doing ALR ATM. We're watching his favorite show RN to help calm him down. Commenter 2, what type of epilepsy is she claiming to have, or does she just say it's different with no other explanations? I'm agreeing with you that she's faking it, but I always love hearing what fakers say about epilepsy because I have it LOL. Reply, she doesn't say what type. Commenter 3, yes, this girl is very clearly faking, however there are very different types of seizures. People can have very quick seizures that do very little harm. Reply, yeah, ick. My brother has epilepsy and he's had multiple kinds of seizures, and hers look nothing like any kinds I've ever seen. Stories number 29. AITA for ruining my stepmother's Mother's Day because she decided to read a letter I wrote to her as part of family therapy on Mother's Day. My dad, my stepmother, and I, 17F, are in family therapy together. It's been like a year now, if not a little longer than that. My dad wanted my siblings, 19M and 22F, to join us but they both refused. So for the last 18 months of me being a minor he's making me do therapy with him and his wife so that they can try to change things between her and me if he can't get us all willing. But I'm not willing. I go because I'm forced to. My mom OD'd on prescription pain meds when I was 6. She'd had chronic health issues for a while and was in a lot of pain. The assumption is that it was accidental, but me and my siblings wonder if she couldn't take it anymore. We'll never know. Our parents were divorced at the time Mom died. We actually saw Dad one weekend a month only. Dad was already dating his wife. After Mom died it was a rough transition to being with Dad. I wasn't used to seeing him often. Only my sister really remembered Dad being around more. For the next 2 years there was just a lot of shit that happened. Dad gave us about 6 months to adjust to the changes in our lives before he moved his wife in. They weren't married at that time but they were planning to get married. Once she moved in she didn't even try to hide her looking down on Mom. She didn't like that we had a relationship with Mom's family. She acted like Mom was some awful person. It sucked. She tried to be super loving to us but me and my siblings wanted her to go away. The way she talked about Mom didn't just make us hesitant to give her a chance but none of us wanted to. The more she tried to take on the role of our new mom, the more we resisted and the more there were issues all around. The day they got married was a shit show from start to finish. My sister went to a friend's house without telling anyone and avoided the whole thing. I refused to talk to Dad or his wife. I went around to different family members asking them to bring me somewhere else. I actually made my stepmother cry because I kept saying I didn't want to be there and I didn't want her. My stepmother's mom died the day of the wedding too. So the wedding was cut short and she was grieving and my dad was mad when he found out where my sister was. Then my brother and sister told her that she knew what losing a mom was like and she'd be even more a monster to shit all over ours. They also threatened to shit talk her mom. But they said they'd give it 6 months to be fair. When things had settled after the wedding she went full swing into trying to win our love. She didn't entirely cut out the talking bad about our mom but I think she tried. I don't see that being enough to make her a good step-parent but I think she did try, hoping it would win us around. When my sister graduated she made a big deal out of excluding Dad's wife from her graduation. It was all online so she couldn't stop her watching from Dad's phone. But they had a page where the graduates' names were with their family members mentioned and she didn't put her on it. And they had a page of graduate thank yous posted unofficially and she didn't thank her. Now she won't talk to her. She lives out of state and she blocked our stepmother's number and hangs up if our stepmother calls on Dad's phone. My brother didn't let Dad come to his graduation because he was worried Dad would give his ticket to our stepmother. He got a ticket for me and our older sister and our 3 living grandparents. And he didn't mention our stepmother in any of the stuff either. It was after my brother graduated that my dad started talking about therapy, but it took months and months for us to start. I think some of it was waiting lists and the other part was my dad trying to talk my siblings into joining. We've spent months of this therapy talking about how my dad and his wife want us to be a closer family. How they want me, and my siblings, to appreciate her and to show her some love and appreciation. The therapist has asked questions about what we all want, what we feel, has given homework on things to think about. She's done solo stuff with each of us. But something she noticed is how they ignore or don't really take into account the stuff I say. So she suggested I write my stepmother a letter telling her how I feel about her, our relationship, what I want and don't want and stuff like that. I wrote it 2 weeks ago. Gave it to her last week and she read it through. Said it was fine. Then she gave it to my stepmother at a group session and asked her to read it in the next 2 weeks. That was last Tuesday and she waited until yesterday to read it. First thing Mother's Day morning she read the letter and she was upset and angry and it made my dad angry and I was accused of ruining her Mother's Day and doing it out of spite and treating her like shit and crapping all over her. In the letter I told her I didn't love her and did not want to fix the relationship between us. I called her on the way she talks about Mom, the way she attempted to come between us and Mom's family, the way she constantly brought up in therapy the fact that my mom OD'd to say she didn't care about me and my siblings and that even if she did, Mom was less of a mom than she was because she's been active in our lives longer than Mom was. I said there was nothing she could do to make me change my mind. And I mentioned that I never wanted to be in therapy with her and Dad in the first place and I simply had no choice. It upset her and yesterday I had the 2 of them on me. I was so glad when it was time for me to go to work. Dad left for work an hour ago and he woke me up to tell me I better fix things by the end of today or there'd be consequences. So now I'm awake and I decided to post this to find out from people who don't know us if I'm TA.